Chapter 5:25. Looking at the shocked Chara, Ancestral Leopard was speechless. "Chara, don't you recognize me?" Chara was even more shocked when he heard Ancestral Leopard speak, and his expression instantly became extremely terrified. "Roar!" Ancestral Leopard couldn't help but let out a roar at Chara. At this moment, Chara was sure that the Ancestral Leopard in front of him was not the Ancestral Leopard model that he had imagined, but the real Ancestral Leopard that the holy man tribe worshipped. Ancestral God! Chara immediately knelt on one knee, placed his right hand on his left chest, and lowered his head to salute Ancestral Leopard. "Get up!" Ancestral Leopard nodded calmly. "Ancestral Leopard, why are you in the virtual world?" Chara stood up in confusion and couldn't help but ask, "This is not a virtual world, but a real world." Ancestral Leopard didn't hide anything from his believer, Chara. At this moment, Chara was confused again. He obviously couldn't understand what was going on. Ancestral Leopard trusted his believer, Chara. It could be said that he had watched Chara grow up. Moreover, after Chara's soul was branded by the artifact, there was no possibility of him betraying Ancestral Leopard. Therefore, Ancestral Leopard didn't hide too much and told him some of the information he knew. Of course, Ancestral Leopard naturally chose to hide the existence of Lu Wu and Bailey. This was not something that Chara could come into contact with. Although he knew that there was no possibility of Chara betraying, Ancestral Leopard still warned Chara to never reveal what he knew to any other players, including the Holy Man tribe. What Ancestral Leopard said almost made Chara think that he was dreaming. After a moment of silence, he recovered from his shock. Chara had never doubted the existence of gods and ghosts because Ancestral Leopard was like a ghost. However, the game world was the real world, which was even more unbelievable than the existence of ghosts and gods in the real world. However, Chara naturally wouldn't doubt anything that Ancestral Leopard said. After coming back to his senses, Chara immediately looked up at Ancestral Leopard and said respectfully, "Ancestral God, what should I do?" "Chara, you are the most talented Ancestral Leopard warrior I have ever seen in the Holy Man tribe. Do you know why you are in so much pain? It's because you've grown too fast and you're more talented than the previous Ancestral Leopard warriors. However, this has also become your fatal weakness, because the sharpening of your spiritual level can't keep up with the progress of your beast body's cultivation. You're often tortured by the beast nature that has nowhere to vent." Hearing this, Chara's expression darkened. Ancestral Leopard had also mentioned this to him at that time, but Chara still did not stop practicing the beast technique. Because he was the guardian of the Holy Man tribe, he had to constantly become stronger to guard against any possible crisis. 400 years ago, the Sacred Man clan had faced a huge crisis from the outside world. The danger did not come from the wild beasts on the prairie, but from modern humans. That crisis caused the Holy Man tribe to pay a heavy price. That generation of Ancestral Leopard warriors even fell because of it. Although they managed to drive away the gun-toting outsiders, it also made the future generations of Ancestral Leopard warriors understand that they must never stop growing stronger. Therefore, no matter how painful it was, as long as she was alive, Chara would grit her teeth and persevere. As an Ancestral Leopard warrior, this was his commitment to the safety of his clansmen. Looking at the silent Chara, Ancestral Leopard understood Chara's feelings very well. "You are a natural-born warrior. This is also the reason why I chose you as an Ancestral Leopard warrior the moment you were born. It's just that I didn't expect your talent to be so high. You can still cultivate so quickly in this age of chaos, causing you to suffer so much pain. But now you can rest assured. Go to the game world to kill and grow. You are a beast, and the cruel laws of survival there is where you should stay. Go there to fight and grow." "Ancestral God, I understand." Hearing Ancestral Leopard say that he could relieve his pain in the game, Chara nodded solemnly, his desire to fight igniting in his heart. "Don't you want to know why I need you to grow quickly. Ancestral Leopard could not help but ask, "I will do whatever you say, Ancestral God. You are my faith, and I will carry out any decision you make with my life." Chara answered without hesitation. Such an honest answer stunned Ancestral Leopard. What an honest believer! As expected of a child I raised since childhood, I did not raise him for nothing. At this moment, Ancestral Leopard could not help but nod. "Since you already understand, then enter the game. Go fight, go kill, and completely vent the beastly nature in your heart." As Ancestral Leopard's voice fell, a game notification sounded, and it was a server announcement. Server announcement. Congratulations to player Chara for creating a new totem faith Ancestral Leopard. Ancestral Leopard Totem, exclusive totem. Totem information. Player Chara created a faith god based on the totem of her tribe's faith. Totem characteristics: 8 types: wild, battle, agility, divine beast body, shape-shifting humanoid beast, self-healing, life enhancement, bloodburst, berserk, rage. Totem growth. The strongest close combat totem at the current stage. Possesses swift movement and the ability to kill in an instant. Extremely high explosive limit. After the server announcement, the entire non-server fell into a short period of silence. Following that, the various forums were instantly flooded with countless posts, creating a new profession at the start of the server, and even breaking Night God Mist's record. This completely drove the players of the various servers crazy. In the server announcement, the introduction of Ancestral Leopard's totem was even more unbelievable to the non-server players. 8 totem characteristics. It was even more than the sky-swallowing lion of the magic type. What was even more terrifying was that the growth introduction directly pointed out that this was the strongest close combat profession at the current stage. Countless players who had chosen other close combat totems were so shocked that their jaws almost dropped. Moreover, this was actually an exclusive totem in the introduction, which meant that this totem only belonged to the player who created this profession. Such treatment made the players' eyes red. Imana, non-server, warmly celebrating the birth of our first cheat in the non-server. Everyone stand up to pay their respects. Power of God, non-server, why is it an exclusive totem? I've been happy for nothing since I haven't chosen a totem. Please share. I also want to play the strongest close combat profession. Crying emoji. Lion King Simba, non-server, congratulations. But I still like the current sky-swallowing lion, and I don't regret my choice. Happy emoji. Crayon_Shinchan. The strongest server has sent me as a representative to greet you. Also, this player named Chara has good potential. But compared to our original cheat group, I reckon there's still a big gap. It can't be helped, after all. The original server is the daddy server, laughing emoji. *_universe, Europe. The people of the European server have sent a congratulatory message. Also, I'll angrily hammer the bar spirit upstairs. Hellboy, Europe. The people of the Infernal server have sent a congratulatory message. Also, I'll say this, the Infernal server is the strongest, and I'll also smash the head of the bar spirit upstairs. Laughing emoji, Boros_hierarch, Asia. The people of the Asian server have sent a congratulatory message. Also, I'll take over the hammer upstairs and smash the bar spirit upstairs. Light of the Grassland, non-server. I'd like to ask Brother Chara how to create a totem belief. Can you post a specific strategy? Thank you. While the forum was in a heated discussion, Chara had entered the game at this moment. His figure passed through the clouds. An endless primeval forest appeared in the west of his sight, and in the east was an area where deserts and grasslands coexisted, and further east was the blue sea. This was the land of Xianfeng. At this moment, the introduction of this land appeared in front of Chara's eyes. Land of Xianfeng. Land introduction. In the underworld, this is the only land with a forest coverage of more than 70%. There is an abundance of species in this land, but danger lurks everywhere. There are many exotic beasts with strange abilities in the forest, as well as many deadly plants. It is a paradise for nurturing new life, but it is also a forbidden land for life. Land forces distribution. Chunyo tribe, only force, 12 subordinate tribes. Player background. As a descendant of the weak tribe Extreme Tribe, grow quickly in this land where danger lurks everywhere. Player main storyline. Make the Extreme Tribe. You are and become the overlord of this land of Xianfeng. After reading it, the introduction words in front of Chara slowly faded, and his vision became blurry. When his vision became clear again, Chara found himself standing on the peak of a mountain, with clouds and mist lingering in front of him. This was the safe zone that Lu Wuwei had set up for the non-server players. Boundless Peak. In the land of Xianfeng, where danger lurks everywhere, this mountain peak, which was 2,678 meters above sea level, could protect the growth of the players in the early stages. It was the best place to start the player's birth. The only drawback was that it would take a lot of time for the players to descend the mountain. However, this problem was actually very easy to solve. Not to mention that there were many wild beasts in the Boundless Peak that could help the players grow in the early stages. In the future, as long as the players continued to develop and clear all the wild beasts in the mountain peak and occupied this area, Lu would naturally set up a teleportation point to the bottom. By then, it would be very convenient for the non-server players to go up and down the mountain. At this moment, the area where Chara was at was densely packed with players. Although there were constantly players leaving the area to explore, there were also a large number of players entering the game. So the area was very congested at this moment. From time to time, there were exclamations and praises from the new players who had just entered the area regarding the realism of this game, even though many of the non-server players had watched the relevant game videos beforehand. They were still shocked after experiencing it for real. In contrast, Char was very calm. After all, he knew many secrets that the players did not know, and he knew that this world was completely real. At this moment, Chara squeezed through the crowd and walked towards the foggy area on the map, ready to start his own exploration and growth. Just like what the ancestral leopard had said, after cultivating the ancestral leopard's beast skills, he was not only a human, but also a wild beast. The bestial nature in his body drove him to seek out battles and kill to his heart's content. Although this world was full of danger, it was also the best place for him to train. As he moved forward, Chara was speechless when he saw that the mountains and plains were filled with the figures of players. Whenever a wild beast was found, a large wave of players would swarm over, just like locusts passing through the territory. The leveling craze after the opening of the server was incomparably crazy. Chara had no choice but to move forward, looking for a suitable leveling ground for himself. While moving forward, Chara also began to study the function panel to familiarize himself with the game's content. The character panel, the shop panel, the profession panel, and so on. When Chara opened the function panel, a countdown timer for the opening of the server and a special event announcement in golden font appeared in front of him. Opening of the server leveling event, countdown, 7 days, 21 hours, 57 minutes. Special event, individual battle ranking match, warm-up match. Chapter 5:26. What attracted Chara's attention was not the first activity, but the second activity marked in gold. Special event, individual competition, warm-up. Event introduction. With the opening of the non-server server, the battle for individual ranking tournament has officially started its warm-up. In the early stages of the individual ranking tournament, players can register to participate through the event panel. Individual competition ranking competition. In the early stages, players can only compete against other players of the same server. After winning, players will be rewarded with competition points and competition points. Competition points can be exchanged for soul coins, experience potions, and exclusive titles. Tournament points. The higher the tournament points, the stronger the opponent you will be matched with. Individual tournament points correspond to 6 ranks: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, king. The number of people in the king rank is fixed, and it is obtained by the 10,000 players with the highest rank on the server. Players must have at least 10,000 tournament points to enter. Warm-up reward. The player who successfully becomes the king of the warm-up competition will receive the qualification to spar in the server's individual tournament, limited to 3 days, as well as the qualification to participate in the official server's individual tournament. Who is the strongest cheat in battle? Prove it with your strength. Chara was stunned when he saw the activity of the individual tournament. After reading the introduction of the event, Chara's eyes suddenly burned with battle intent. The bestial nature in his body stirred once again, the desire to fight surging in his body. In reality, in order not to harm his clansmen, he had been suppressing his bestial nature and did not even dare to fight recklessly. But here he didn't need to suppress it, especially the individual ranking tournament, where he could fight against strong opponents. He couldn't help but be filled with fighting spirit. Thinking of this, he decisively pressed the sign-up button. Immediately, a notification of successful registration popped up on the event interface. At the same time, the registration interface also changed. Chara, Ancestral Leopard Totem. Wins, 0 failures, 0 winning percentage, 0% competition points, 0 no rank competition points, 0. Under his competition information, there were 2 more options. Match begins. Competition point mall. Although it was only level 0 at the moment, the fighting spirit in Chara's heart had already been ignited. Without hesitation, she clicked Start Matching. A game notification appeared. Game notification. Starting matchmaking. Game notification. Matchmaking successful. Entering individual arena. In less than a second, the match was successful. Chara immediately discovered that the space around him had begun to distort. When it became clear again, he discovered that he had appeared in a huge, dilapidated, circular arena. Random arena. Lost arena. The marble floor was filled with cracks, and moss had even grown out of the cracks. It was a scene of ruin. While Chara was still in shock, a figure slowly appeared not far away from him. Game notification. Your opponent is Amora. Spectators, 0 Amora. Competition information. Level 21 wins, 3 losses, 0 no rank. Game notification. Please get ready. The battle will begin in 10 seconds. At this time, a huge light screen appeared in front of Chara, isolating him from the player called Amora. In the center of the light screen, a countdown was jumping. Realizing that the battle was about to begin, Chara immediately became excited. Here, he didn't need to suppress his instincts at all. He could release his bestial nature to his heart's content. Roar! Chara slowly lowered his body, all 4 limbs on the ground. His pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle, and he entered a battle state. Not far away, Amora, who had won 3 battles in a row, found out that his opponent was a level 0 newbie with no battle records. He almost laughed until his snot bubbles came out. 2 days ago, he had bought a gaming cabin and leveled up crazily for 24 hours in order to suppress his opponent in the individual competition. He wanted to get a good result in the early stages of the competition. Just 2 hours ago, he had reached level 21. After feeling that he was already ahead of most players, Amora decisively started his individual competition, preparing to rush for the rank. Just as he had expected, with the suppression of his attributes brought by his level, he easily achieved 3 consecutive victories, and his individual competition points reached 79 points. As his points increased, the chances of being matched with a strong opponent would also increase. Just now, Amora was still worried that he would be matched with an opponent he couldn't defeat because of his bad luck, and that would break his winning streak. But when the competition started, he couldn't help but laugh when he saw Chara's battle records and level. It was obvious that he had picked up a free victory this time. The nervousness in his heart faded, and Amora was now much calmer. It was time to bully noobs. As the light screen in the middle dissipated, his opponent's hazy figure became clear, and the battle began at this moment. But Amora was stunned. What was this guy doing lying on the ground? Was he surrendering? While Amora was puzzled by this, Chara suddenly bounced up from the ground, and his body shot out like a cheetah, sprinting towards Amora. Seeing this, Amora was shocked, because Chara's speed was too fast. Although it was only level 0 and didn't have any attribute buffs, Chara's speed was extremely fast by relying on the movement of its 4 limbs, as well as the buff of its own ancestral cheetah's agility characteristic, and it instantly closed in on Amora. The frightened Amora hurriedly released one of the elephant god totem skills, Mountain Quake. His right foot suddenly stomped downwards. Roar! Chara, who had keenly sensed Amora's intention, increased its speed once again, and then leaped up, its sharp claws suddenly slashing towards Chara's neck. This attack was extremely smooth, and the moment it leaped up, its sharp claws had already reached Amora's neck. Crack! The sharp claws slapped on Amora's neck, and the red damage word appeared. Because it was a weak point attack, this attack took away 18 points of Amora's HP. Amora was completely shocked to be able to deal such damage at level 0. He couldn't care less about using his skills, and decisively swung his right arm and punched towards Chara, who was floating in the air. At this moment, Chara's body flipped strangely in the air, and while dodging his attack, it once again slapped its claws on his neck. 2 weak point attacks had taken away 1/4 of Amora's HP. This undoubtedly made Amora angry, and the feeling of being crushed by skills really made him feel bad. He immediately swung his fist again. At this moment, Chara grabbed his right arm, and with a forceful pull, its body collided with him. Their eyes met, and Amora saw Chara's sharp and bloodthirsty eyes. Those eyes were filled with murderous intent and aggression, and he couldn't help but feel afraid. But at this moment, Chara's body came into contact with his, and Amora knew that his chance had come. He hurriedly crossed his arms in front of his chest, wanting to hug Chara, because as long as he successfully restrained Chara, he had ways to kill it. After all, he had a huge advantage in terms of attributes. But at this moment, Chara's actions made him dumbfounded. Chara, who came into contact with his body, shook its head violently and bit down on his throat. Chara's ancestral leopard's talent skill was activated, and its teeth turned black. With a low growl, it bit down hard again. Crack! The sound of bones breaking was heard, and crimson blood words appeared. This time, Amora's HP was directly emptied. With Amora's death, a game notification appeared. Competition notification. Battle victory. Obtained 3 competition points, 21 competition points, battle record. 1-0, no ranks, roar! As Amora's body slowly turned into black fog and disappeared, Chara, who was standing in the middle of the arena, let out an angry roar. An opponent like Amora was too weak in his eyes, and he couldn't let him feel satisfied at all. Thinking of this, Chara clicked on his competition menu and started his second battle. This battle really made Amora dumbfounded. He actually bit. How could a battle be played like this? As a modern person, Chara's wild fighting style really scared him. Chara! Chara! Thinking of this name, Amora suddenly thought of a person, the mysterious player who created the new totem. His name seemed to be Chara. F***CK, it's a wall hanger. After thinking that Chara might be that wall hanger, Amora's heart instantly calmed down. He quickly opened the competition menu, extracted the video of the battle just now, and then opened the forum and posted this video, planning to ride on Chara's popularity in the early stages. After all, there were still many benefits to being famous in the forum. Having popularity was one thing. Sometimes there might even be a reward. Of course, there were not many players in the non-server who had soul coins. At this moment, the non-server forum was still discussing who this player called Chara was. At this moment, Amora's post appeared. Found Chara, he's in the arena and was matched with me just now. In the end, I lost because he bit. Opie, the strong Amora content. Attached video, the appearance of this post instantly attracted the attention of a large number of non-server players, as well as players from other servers who mingled in the non-server. Shuali _the_strongest. Is this kid so murderous? He's biting someone. Won't the referee come out and do something about it? Laughing emoji. Crayon_Shinchan replied to Shuali _ strongest. There are no rules to the battle. As long as you can win, no one will say that you're childish even if you spit in battle. Laughing emoji. Light of the prairie, not? Why do I feel that Chara is like a beast and he roars from time to time during the battle? But he's really cool. Too valiant, like emoji. Imana Nadahem, is there any professional player who can go to the arena to snipe our first wall hanger? He's starting a competition at level 0. I think he's a little too arrogant, laughing emoji. Light of the gods. Snipe, we can't let the wall grow in arrogance. We have to make him suffer some setbacks. All high-level players. Quickly match with each other. I'll enter the arena to watch the battle first. I'll report to you guys at any time. Seeing Chara start a competitive ranking competition at level 0 so arrogantly, many non-server players suddenly became restless. There were even a few players who launched a snipe operation, preparing to make their first wall hanger suffer some setbacks in the name of training. Soon, the number of spectators in the arena gradually increased. These players had all searched for the name Chara and followed him to watch every single one of his battles. Every time Chara ended battle, the players who were ready to snipe would follow the instructions of the spectators and decisively click the Start Matching button at the same time as Chara. However, as the battles quickly ended, many spectators were dumbfounded. That was because Chara was so strong that it was a little unbelievable to them. He truly displayed the unruliness to the fullest, and his fierce fighting style was simply like a bloodthirsty beast. Chara's attributes were obviously the weakest, but any player who fought against him would feel a huge sense of oppression. In the battle, they were the passive side, and Chara was often the one attacking. Swift and violent dodging, bloodthirsty and fatal attacks, and high explosive damage. In just a short period of half a day, Chara achieved 18 consecutive victories, and all the players who were matched with snipers were all defeated without exception. The entire non-server forum was instantly in an uproar, and more players began to enter the arena's spectator stand, wanting to learn battle techniques or witness the moment Chara was defeated. Another half a day later, when Chara's winning streak reached 26 consecutive victories, not only did the non-server forum, but many players from other servers also knew about this news. There was a player in the non-server called Chara, whose fighting style was incomparably valiant, achieving a 26 consecutive victory in competitive matches at level 0. However, just as the players were excited to continue watching how long Chara's winning streak would last, Chara suddenly disappeared. Due to the virtual reality helmet's 12-hour game limit, he was kicked out of the game. At this moment, Chara, who had not had his fill of killing, was also dumbfounded. Chapter 5:27. Having reached the game limit of 12 hours, Chara was forced to quit the game just as he was about to continue fighting. At that moment, Chara was a little confused. Clearly, he did not understand why a game had a game limit of 12 hours. He subconsciously took off his helmet and immediately found Jack dozing off not far away. The sky outside the window was filled with stars. It was already nighttime. After 26 consecutive battles in the game, each opponent was stronger than the previous one. Even after quitting the game, Chara still felt his blood boiling. The realistic scene and the feeling of the battles made Chara very addicted. In reality, he had to suppress the beastly nature in his body. However, in the battle arena, he could freely vent the anger in his heart. The continuous battles could only be described with one word, and that was awesome. If it was not for the game limit of 12 hours, Chara felt that he could continue fighting and kill to his heart's content. Looking at Jack, who was dozing off not far away, Chara thought for a moment, stood up and walked to his side. He reached out his hand and patted his shoulder. "Jack, wake up." Jack was startled awake from his dreams and hurriedly opened his eyes. When he saw Chara standing in front of him, he rubbed his sleepy eyes and said, "I'm sorry, Chara." "Chara, did you quit the game?" Hearing this, Chara was slightly helpless. "I was forced to quit the game. They said that I've reached the game limit. Haha, is it painful? Jack was instantly energized when he heard Chara's experience. This was because he had experienced the feeling of being forced to quit the game when he was having fun. It was really exasperating and frustrating. Is there any way to extend the game time? Chara could not help but frown and ask. Originally, he was only planning to give the game a try because he could not persuade Jack. However, after meeting Zubao in the game and experiencing the game content, he had decided to play the game to his heart's content. Therefore, game time was very important to him. Thinking about this, Jack immediately explained, "This is also the battle arena's protection for the players. Although you're very strong, you still have to buy a virtual gaming pod if you want to play the game for 24 hours. Otherwise, you can only play the game for 12 hours a day and will be forced to go offline when you reach the limit." Gaming pod? Where can I buy it? Chara immediately asked. No way, you're addicted? Jack was stunned. In his opinion, Chara had always been an indifferent person, as if she had no desire for anything. Her only insistence was to protect the Holy Man tribe. Therefore, this sudden change had caught him off guard. This game can release the beast in me. I need it. In the face of Jack's question, Chara did not say anything about the ancestral leopard, but only answered as such. Haha, I guessed it right. A completely real world. I knew it could be done. Hearing this, Jack could not help but laugh. He only wanted Chara to experience the game with the mentality of giving it a try. Considering that Battle Royale was a 100% realistic game, he felt that it might work. Now that he had gotten a positive answer from Chara, Jack could not help but feel happy. However, when he thought of Chara wanting to buy a gaming cabin, Jack could not help but fall into deep thought. Chara was not anxious either as she waited for Jack's reply. After a while, Jack raised his head and said, "If you want to buy a gaming cabin, you have to face two problems. First is the problem of funds, because the price of a gaming cabin is not low. Moreover, shipping it here is also a big expense. Coupled with the replacement of the nutrient solution from time to time, the price is not low. Moreover, you need to specially buy a solar charger. After all, there's no device to supply the gaming cabin to charge." Hearing this, Chara suddenly felt pressured, because he had no money at all. Although the Holy Man tribe had contact with the outside world, and the tribe also had a sum of funds that could be used to exchange goods with the outside world, the money was the tribe's, not his. Moreover, this sum of money in the tribe was not much, but it was very important to the Holy Man tribe. Naturally, he could not use it at will. Gaming cabin, nutrient solution, transportation, solar charger, the pressure from the financial aspect was really a headache for Chara. However, after trying it out, he knew how important this game was to him. Even the ancestral leopard supported his growth in the game. Naturally, he would not give up just like that. At this moment, Chara thought of hunting, exchanging the game with the outside world, and then saving the money to buy a gaming cabin. However, after thinking about it carefully, this idea was not realistic because there were no cities nearby. Unless he left the tribe and went to the outside world to find a way to earn money, he could not think of any other way to earn money. As if seeing Chara's dilemma, Jack suddenly laughed. "Chara, I will still be here for a long time. During this time, let's share the virtual reality helmet. You will have 12 hours, and I will have 12 hours. You can earn soul coins in the game, and it can help you buy a gaming cabin." "Jack, what do you mean?" Chara asked quickly. Faced with Chara's question, Jack smiled and began to explain the value of soul coins. Jack naturally knew how precious soul coins were. Before the start of the server, he was a cloud conquest player and had learned a lot of war-related information and videos. Therefore, he clearly knew that there was simply nothing that could not be bought with soul coins in the current war, including in real life. Cars, houses, and the like were not counted. There were even players who used soul coins as betrothal gifts. For the players, there was never enough soul coins, which also led to the price of soul coins never falling and even rising steadily. Therefore, as long as there were soul coins, it was naturally not a problem to buy items such as gaming cabins. As long as the ratio was right, there were players who were willing to fork out cash to exchange for soul coins. Now that the server had also started, just as a player had predicted a long time ago, soul coins had become the virtual currency. There was even no need to exchange for cash. In the game, a large number of players were willing to directly exchange things in real life for soul coins. Therefore, the problem of Chara wanting to buy items such as gaming cabins was no longer a problem as long as there were soul coins. It could even be said that as long as there were enough soul coins, Chara could even mobilize the forces of the outside world and transform the Holy Man tribe into a modern small city. Of course, all of this was under the premise that there were enough soul coins. After listening to Jack's explanation, Chara came to a realization. At this moment, he finally understood how popular the game was in the outside world, and the server that he was in had only just started and was still in its infancy. After that, when Chara heard Jack ramble on about how powerful the other old server's hack players were, the fighting spirit in Chara's eyes surged again. At this moment, Chara was full of yearning for this game. Strong opponents, cruel rules of survival. Just as Ancestral Leopard had said, that world was suitable for a beast like him. Now you understand. As long as you have soul coins, you can obtain many things from the outside world in the game. During this period, you will use the virtual helmet during the day and find ways to earn soul coins. I will continue to shoot my documentary, but when your gaming time limit is reached at night, I will use the virtual helmet. What do you think? Chara immediately nodded. Jack, thank you very much for your help. You're welcome. I still have to thank you for your cooperation during this period. Who knows? This documentary might make me famous. Jack could not help but smile. In fact, it was not that he did not want to help Chara buy a gaming cabin, but he really did not have that much money. After all, he had to take care of his family. Otherwise, he would not have taken such a big risk to come to the prairie to shoot a documentary on animal migration. Even though he had previously sponsored the Holy Man tribe with a sum of money, it was only 10,000 in cash, which was a part of his monthly salary. Perhaps to the Holy Man tribe, this amount of money was a lot, but it was still far from enough to buy a gaming cabin, not to mention subsequent items such as nutrient fluids. For the Holy Man tribe, this amount of money might be very important because they did not have much cash reserves from the outside world. This money could help the tribe in times of difficulty. However, in the modern era, the purchasing power of 10,000 in cash was very weak. Therefore, Jack came up with this idea to let Chara carry bricks in the game to earn money. He believed that with Chara's ability, he would definitely be able to earn this amount of money very quickly. After all, Chara was different from modern people. He was a real warrior, and he would definitely be able to make a name for himself in the game. At this moment, Jack did not know that Chara had already become famous in the entire non-server server. He was even recognized by the non-server players as the first wall-hacking player in their server. In particular, the fact that he had created a new class on the third day of the server's launch made Chara's name very famous in the forums of other servers. At this moment, there were even players on the forums who edited a compilation of Chara's 26 individual competitions, making Chara's popularity in the non-server reach its peak. If they could pull Chara into their guild, not to mention gaming cabins, there would even be tycoons who would be willing to give every member of the Holy Man tribe a gaming cabin. After all, the value of a wall-hacking player could be seen from the other servers. A few days later, Chara began to take turns using the virtual reality helmet with Jack. During this period, Chara felt refreshed every day. He no longer felt pain, and the hostility in his body had completely faded. This was because, in the game, he could kill wantonly without having to worry about anything. His level had also reached level 23. His strong bestial intuition and hunting ability in the wild made leveling up in the early stages very easy for him. In terms of individual competitions, Chara would be matched with about 5 matches every day. The opponents were also getting stronger. Some of the opponents might not be as high as the previous players, but in terms of technique, they really surprised Chara. There were many non-server players, and it could be said that there was no shortage of technical players, which made Chara more and more excited as he fought. Until now, his battle record had reached 58 consecutive wins, 0 losses, and a 100% win rate. All of this proved Chara's strong individual strength. Apart from creating a new class, every battle of Chara would be made into a video and uploaded to the forum for other players to learn from. However, it must be said that Chara's battle skills were not something that could be learned by ordinary people. Not to mention the battle posture of lying on all fours. Those ferocious, beast-like battle methods, such as biting and tearing, were even more difficult to learn. During this period, Chara had completely become a god in the non-server. As the battle record continued to increase, Chara even attracted the attention of other wall-hacking players, especially the battle-hungry AO, Jian, and the others, who had already regarded him as a potential opponent. Although Chara might be much weaker in terms of level, as the game progressed, their level would increase slower. Moreover, the game was full of opportunities. As long as one's individual strength was strong, the gap brought about by level would only become smaller and smaller. The biggest gap still came from individual skills. Moreover, there was a rule in the individual competition. That was, after entering the Diamond Division, the strength of all matched opponents would be balanced. This naturally included the open competitions of the 4 major servers. Starting from the Diamond Division, even if one's own level was 100 levels higher than the opponent's, and the attributes of the equipment were also overwhelming, from this division onwards, one would have to pay more attention to skills. As soon as the competition started, the attributes of the players on both sides would be adjusted. Of course, it was only a slight balance, not a complete balance. After all, some classes needed strong attributes to be able to deal high damage. This was because these classes were originally weak in the early stages, and only rose after their attributes increased in the later stages. A complete balance would be very unfair to the players of these classes. In terms of balance, Bailey made a summary of various aspects such as classes, equipment, levels, and skills, and then set a balance value. When different classes met, there would be a complete balance of attributes. Of course, the attributes of the competition were only slightly adjusted by about 40% and not completely balanced. There was no absolute fairness in this world. Absolute fairness would always be unfair. Those players who worked hard for 24 hours a day to exchange for good equipment, why couldn't they have a slight advantage? Those players who used their accumulated wealth in real life to exchange for good equipment also had to pay their own price. For Lu Wu, balance was naturally relative, not absolute. Of course, the existence of a slight balance was also necessary. This was because Lu Wu valued skills more, and a slight balance would also allow the players to work hard to learn combat skills, instead of blindly carrying bricks in pursuit of good equipment and attributes. If blindly stacking attributes meant being powerful, then the players would enter the wrong path of growth, and they would no longer focus on combat skills. This was something that Lu Wu had naturally thought of. For this reason, before the individual competition started, Lu Wu repeatedly modified the settings with Bei Li's help. After many tests, he was completely satisfied with the settings, and only then did he introduce the individual competition warm-up. This individual competition was a grand occasion for all the players who had been training hard in combat skills, and it was also the time for the players who had been training hard to show off their skills. All the players were working hard to break through the ranks, and they wanted to obtain the highest honor in their own server. They also wanted to break out of their own server and fight against the professional players from other servers for the glory of their own server. Chapter 5:28. Just as Ancestral Leopard had said, only with such a mentality could he sharpen his mind and constantly break through his limits to become stronger, because the Blood Beast man was actually faster than him. Thus, he made a decision to descend the mountain and search for other wild monsters in the forest. In reality, he was confined to the Holy Man tribe. Even if he left, he would only stay in the vicinity of the tribe. Along the way, there were players everywhere. Seeing this scene, the blood beast men below went crazy. Chara hesitated for a moment, but still chose to refuse. But soon, Chara didn't think so. After understanding that it couldn't contend with the blood beast man in terms of power, Chara rushed forward while paying attention to the blood beastman's wooden stick to avoid being hit. However, his clumsy hands and feet caused him to slip after climbing a few meters. At this moment, he was a wild beast fighting for prey. There was no need for any explanation. The meat was tight and delicate, and when it entered the mouth, it released a fragrance and spiritual energy, causing Chara, who was eating, to shiver uncontrollably. This was because this spiritual beast did not belong to him at all. The danger came from the ground, from the sky, and even from the plants with strong camouflage abilities that could be seen everywhere. However, such a jungle environment also gradually made Chara excited. But in the game, he wanted complete freedom. Monster condition, hungry, tired, slight. Faced with Lyzala's hostility, the blood beast man didn't attack and instead raised his wooden stick and pointed at Zala. Seeing this, the blood beast man roared and swept his wooden club towards Chara. The mountains and plains were filled with players who wanted to level up during the early stages of the server's launch. Chara saw many groups of players fighting each other to steal monsters. This cruelty didn't come from the outside world, but from within the players. It was caused by the scarcity of resources. At first, Chara was not clear about the situation. When she passed by a flowering shrub, she was almost ambushed by a plant. If this continued, he would be caught. Blood Beast Man, level 69 elite. At this moment, the monster also noticed Chara's arrival. Chara decisively jumped up once again, its limbs lightly tapping on the wooden stick as it pounced towards the blood beast man. Fortunately, he had the powerful instinct of a beast. He sensed the killing intent in advance and avoided the danger. He also successfully destroyed the soul-sucking flower. Like locusts, the players continued to nibble away at the foot of the mountain. Chara's eyes became bloodthirsty. The purple claws flickered as they stabbed towards the blood beastman's eyes. It stared at Chara as if it wanted to remember it. After a while, it turned around and ran into the distance. Since the non-server had just been launched, the players' activity area was basically in the Boundless Mountain. Other than killing monsters to level up, there were no other ways to earn soul coins like in other servers such as fishing, chopping trees, and carrying bricks. Most importantly, even if you found it, it might not be yours. Even though they were walking at an extremely fast speed, due to the rugged mountain path and their unfamiliarity with the terrain, it took Chara half a day to descend the mountain. Moreover, the first main quest of the non-server players was to become the overlord of the Black Wind region, and these tribal warriors were their enemies. At this time, Chara's figure flickered as she pounced towards the blood beast man. Thorn's Forest, east, moreover, with the blood beastman's power, as long as he was hit once, he would be instantly killed. At this time, Chara no longer had to worry about not being able to find wild monsters. Instead, she began to pay attention to the existence of groups of wild monsters, trying to avoid being surrounded. After all, to them, this was just a game, and it would not be a problem even if they broke the sky. This monster looked extremely boorish. It was dressed in animal skin, with 2 beast fangs exposed. Its whole body emitted a foul stench, and there were mosquitoes lingering on its body. In its left hand, it was carrying a creature with snow-white fur. In terms of movement speed, Chara was extremely confident. His figure shuttled through the forest, his sensitive senses and conditioned reflexes allowing him to react in advance to any terrain. Chara turned to look at the blood beast man below, and a smile appeared in his eyes as he leaped up a few meters again. However, the expected stinging pain did not occur. Instead, its left hand suddenly felt lighter. When it opened its eyes, it found that Chara had actually escaped not far away with the snow spirit bug in his mouth. Seeing this, Chara did not stay any longer and continued to stride forward. After trying this several times, the blood beast man finally gave up climbing and began to pound the giant tree frantically. Facing the blood beast man, whose level was much higher than his, Chara did not retreat. Instead, he let out a low roar. Roar! Seeing that Chara was ignoring him, the blood beast man fiercely stomped its foot and stretched its head towards Chara. Chara wrinkled its nose. From the stench coming from the blood beastman's body, Chara suddenly smelled a meaty fragrance, and that smell came from the snow spirit bug in the blood beastman's hand. Moreover, because it was biting the snow spirit bug, its speed was affected to a certain extent. Creature prompt: target is a spirit beast. Its meat is delicious and extremely valuable. After eating it, there is a high probability of obtaining a permanent attribute increase. In the forum, Chara's fame had already reached the point where everyone knew about him. How could this not make it angry and frightened? If it failed, it would not be far from death. Chara did not answer and continued to stare at the blood beast man, looking for an opportunity to attack. The cruel law of survival had already been vividly displayed at the start of the game. It had been in this thorny forest for many years, but it was the first time it had seen a creature like Chara, so it was very surprised. Thus, after obtaining the snow spirit bug, Chara decisively chose to escape. Not only were there wild monsters, but there were also many plant-shaped life forms full of aggression, and there were even predators from the sky. Chara immediately concentrated and began to think of a way to avoid the blood beast man. His fierce fighting style in the individual arena was called beast fighting style by the non-server players, and there were countless guides on how to learn it. Thus, it was easy to imagine how difficult it was to find a wild monster at this stage. What kind of creature are you? In reality, he was a warrior of the tribe, a guardian. But in battle, he was a wild beast, unrestrained, and doing as he pleased was the key to growth. His powerful sense of smell and danger perception became his strongest weapon in the forest at this moment. Clearly, the blood beast man did not expect this creature to take the initiative to attack him. He immediately raised his wooden stick and swung it at Chara. He did not have complete confidence in defeating the blood beast man. In this period of time, he had also understood the problem of the higher the level of the monster in the game, the more HP they had. The blood beast man was terrified and immediately closed his eyes. The diameter of this giant tree was more than 30 meters. Its branches were luxuriant, its crown like an umbrella, and its top could not be seen at a glance. Just as Chara had expected, once they left the boundless peak, they would encounter many more creatures. A large number of players were fighting to learn and imitate it. His bestial instincts told him that he wanted to eat this snow spirit worm. But as the players continued to sweep downwards, the number of wild monsters in the boundless peak decreased. Roar! Seeing that Chara had jumped up the tree, the blood beast man smashed his stick on the trunk again. Seeing this, Chara decisively leaped towards the giant tree and quickly climbed several meters high with the snow spirit worm in his mouth. Instead, it was a spirit beast reared by the tribe, and it did not have the right to eat it. This time, it had received orders from the captain to go to the animal pen to find the animal pen's manager and get one to bring back to the tribe to give to the priest. When it reached the foot of the mountain, the fog on the map dispersed, and the name of the area it was in appeared. As they continued to explore, Chara suddenly stopped moving forward when they passed by a stream area. But even though the players were fighting, they were still very happy playing the game. At this time, the blood beast man also arrived and fiercely swung his stick at the trunk of this giant tree, almost hitting Chara. Chara, on the other hand, walked all the way down the mountain. Now he just wanted to leave the starting ground and go to the outside world. He could not stay in this boundless peak any longer. As the blood beast man got closer and closer, just when Chara thought that this battle was inevitable and was preparing to fight, a giant tree appeared in his sight. Monster information. Warrior from the bloodthirsty tribe, one of the 12 subordinate tribes of the Cheonyo tribe. Extremely strong and also a soldier of the bloodthirsty tribe during wartime. What Chara, who was happily eating, did not know was that because of his action, the first wave of crisis for the non-server players had arrived. But even the most direct method of killing monsters to accumulate soul coins was not easy to do in the early stages of the non-server game. Finding monsters was an extremely troublesome problem. Roar! Boom! However, this giant tree was deeply rooted, and the stick did not even have the right to shake it. It only sent some wood shavings flying. There were players fighting with each other, guilds fighting with each other, and there were even players fighting with wild monsters. The scene was extremely chaotic. Snow Spirit Worm, rank 1 spirit beast. After placing the snow spirit worm in his mouth on the branch, Chara's appetite increased as he smelled its fragrance. He started to eat it raw. He did not expect to be robbed by Chara along the way. Creature status: dead, spiritual energy depletion, ongoing. However, his attack could not move the giant tree at all, other than sending some wood shavings flying. He had to fight other players passing by before he could decide. His beastly instincts told him that the blood beast man could not be defeated. After making his decision, Chara did not search for traces of wild monsters in the boundless peak. Instead, he walked straight down the mountain. As he walked, the number of players decreased, but the number of wild monsters he encountered increased. His walking posture changed from walking with his feet to walking on all fours. At this time, Chara, who had already climbed more than 20 meters high, jumped onto a branch. He turned his head to look down and immediately realized that the blood beast man was still hammering the giant tree. His sharp gaze suddenly landed on a 3-meter-tall figure holding a pitch-black wooden stick not far away. However, Chara had also encountered some troubles recently. For a period of time after that, Chara would practice his bestial techniques at night. During the day, he would enter the battle game to train and grow. More importantly, he would carry bricks to save money and buy a gaming cabin. That was because the speed at which he earned soul coins was too slow. This was the first time he had eaten such delicious food. Creature information: low-level spirit beast that was bred. It hides underground all year round. It is good at digging holes. It has a cowardly personality. It will hide underground at the slightest movement from the outside world. It was fine in the early stages as there were more wild monsters in the boundless peak. However, Chara was more troubled. Killing wild monsters was like looking for a missing person. He ran all over the mountains and plains. He was completely unable to earn enough soul coins to buy a gaming cabin. After realizing that the blood beast man did not know how to climb trees, Chara was very calm. Die. Realizing that his prey had been robbed, the blood beast man was very angry. He chased after Chara. Chara's gaze then shifted to the white creature in the blood beastman's hand. The wild monsters in the boundless peak were not like the ghost mountain, which belonged to the farming spots where new soul-type life forms could be created at any time. Therefore, in just a short week, the wild monsters in the upper half of this peak were almost wiped out by the non-server players. The blood beast man stared at Chara, his eyes almost spitting fire. He immediately put down the wooden stick and began to climb. Apart from that, Chara had also received many invitations from guilds, and all of them offered high rewards. The blow was heavy and powerful, but Chara was extremely fast. He had been staring at the wooden stick the whole time and predicted where it would land. He immediately turned and pounced to the side, dodging the blow. Chapter 5:29. Black Wind Region, east of the Thorn Forest. At this moment, Chara was crouching in the bushes and observing the situation outside through the gaps. He seemed very vigilant. During this period of time, because he had robbed a snow spirit worm, he had been besieged by the beast addict tribe for revenge. In the following 2 days, he had been hiding everywhere and had been besieged several times. He had even almost died. However, during his escape, Chara had discovered an incredible place. It was the area he was currently in, the beast pen. This territory was surrounded by reinforced fences and was heavily guarded. Many blood beast men were stationed there, and there was even an extremely powerful ghost commander. At that time, Chara had not understood what this place was, but during his investigation he had discovered that several blood beast men had taken snow spirit worms from the beast pen. At that moment he had realized that this was an area for breeding spirit beasts. After tasting the snow spirit worm and obtaining the 10 points of permanent attribute enhancement, Chara had an unparalleled desire for these spirit beasts. So, Chara started to do the dirty work of intercepting them, although he would definitely not be able to enter the well-guarded beast pen breeding area with his strength. This was not a problem for Chara. Whenever a lone beast man came to retrieve a snow spirit worm, Chara would quietly follow him on the way back, waiting for an opportunity to rob them. Relying on the agility attribute of the ancestral leopard totem, Chara repeatedly succeeded and snatched another 3 snow spirit worms. How could this not annoy the beast addict tribe? Although the snow spirit worm was a low-level spirit beast, it was extremely rare. Other than being eaten directly, it could also be used to refine medicine. Its flesh that was filled with spiritual energy was even better for inscribing sacrificial talisman arrays. The value of an adult snow spirit worm would increase exponentially. However, snow spirit worms were extremely difficult to breed. Not many could successfully reach adulthood, and they would die from time to time. However, the beast addict tribe would not waste these dead snow spirit worms. Every once in a while, they would send people to the beast pen to retrieve the carcasses of the dead snow spirit worms and bring them back to the tribe to be used by the priests. Thus, during this period of time, Chara's several interceptions had really angered the beast addict tribe. After that, the warriors who went to the beast pen to retrieve the carcasses of the snow spirit worms no longer acted alone. The beast addict tribe even dispatched a large number of tribal warriors to surround Chara, determined to kill him. After several encounters, Chara had narrowly escaped. This undoubtedly enraged the beast addict tribe, the overlord of the thorn forest. The entire beast addict tribe had taken action at this stage and began to issue a series of measures against Chara. In addition to besieging Chara, they also began to investigate which tribe the warrior Chara belonged to. On the 8th day of the non-server, there were only 2 days left before the end of the leveling event, and the players were entering the final sprint stage. This meant that the world spirit war god Spirit Wong. The boundless peak alone was no longer enough to satisfy the players' daily leveling needs. Moreover, most of the monsters on the boundless peak had already been wiped out. Under such circumstances, Lu Wu decisively activated the non-server teleportation formation to the foot of the mountain. In turned. Under Spirit Dragon Region, Spirit Forest Region, Spirit. Under. All the players became military experts and began proposing and warriors who war, and country war, the war, and all. They king world, they and. The players had turned into military experts, proposing various battle plans and expressing their opinions freely on the server's forum. There were even non-server players who wanted to learn from the European server and rope in a powerful local NPC to their side to help them in battle. He also wanted to learn from the successful cases of the original server and rely on a powerhouse like Yu Yao to obtain early development resources. In short, as the weakest server, the non-server players could be said to have come up with hundreds of roundabout battle strategies in order to bridge the gap. However, when the non-server players stepped into the Thorn Forest, they discovered that the truth was the complete opposite of what they had imagined. The attitude of the beast tribe in the eastern Thorn Forest towards players could be said to be extremely harsh. Many of the players who took the initiative to talk to the beast addict tribe were killed without exception. The first time they met was a battle. It was completely different from what they had imagined. Sowing discord between them? Using a borrowed knife to kill? None of that worked at all. This was because the warriors of the Beast Addiction tribe didn't give the players any chance to communicate. During this period of time, the non-server players had been beaten to the point of losing their temper. Their locust-like arrogance in the boundless mountains had been completely shattered. At this moment, the non-server players had witnessed the strength of the local forces in the Xianfeng land. Now, regardless of whether they were fighting as a group or acting alone, the non-server players were being suppressed. They didn't even understand why the Beast Addiction tribe was so hostile towards them. Of course, the non-server players wouldn't give up just like that. They launched several waves of attacks in an attempt to fight back. However, without exception, all of them were beaten back. During this period of time, when the Beast Addiction tribe realized that the players came from the Boundless Peak, they gathered a large number of warriors and formed a tribal battle group to attack the Boundless Peak. The non-server players were stunned by the ferocity of the Beast Addiction tribe. The server had just opened. Did the local forces have to be so brutal? The entire Boundless Peak was 2,678 meters above sea level. The players were beaten from the foot of the mountain to the mountainside, and from the mountainside, they were hammered up a few hundred meters. The warriors of the Beast Addiction tribe only retreated when all the defending players were dead. The plot was completely wrong. According to the non-server players' plan, they should work hard to develop and then massacre the entire Xianfeng land. However, less than 10 days after the server opened, they were almost killed by the local forces in the Xianfeng land. They were ruthlessly massacred, and their entire team was wiped out. This wave of battle completely dumbfounded the non-server players. The players who were discussing tactics on the forum shut their mouths. It was obvious that the Beast Addiction tribe wouldn't accept negotiations. In the first battle against the local forces, the Beast Addiction tribe had very few casualties. On the other hand, the non-server players were wiped out. The difference in strength was too great, and so was the psychological impact. After coming to their senses, the indignant non-server players formed a large team and charged toward the foot of the mountain. This time, the non-server players weren't surprised. They were once again hammered back to the mountaintop. Many of the non-server players who had just entered the game and were still admiring the scenery of the mountaintop were also captured by the Beast Addiction tribe. Their heads were smashed by black wooden sticks, and they suffered an undeserved calamity. The non-server players who were indignant formed another team and went down the mountain again. However, there were no exceptions every time. The non-server players who had just started out and didn't have much combat experience were no match for the battle-hardened warriors of the Beast Addiction tribe. Every time they fought and retreated. They were fiercely beaten back to the mountaintop and their heads were smashed. The non-server players weren't the only ones who were dumbfounded. The players from the other servers who understood the situation were also rolling on the floor with laughter. It had only been less than 10 days since the server was launched, and they were already surrounded by the local forces in the safe zone. Moreover, they couldn't even get out of the safe zone. Other than the Hell difficulty server, the development of the other servers was relatively smooth. For example, in the early stages of the game, the players mainly farmed monsters in areas like the Ghost Mountains. They would only fight against Cha Na when they had some strength. The European server players also farmed monsters in the Hidden Dragon Village to level up. Even when they were threatened by the Hidden Dragon Ghost General and were forced to move away, the European server came up with a countermeasure. They stabilized the Hidden Dragon Village and seized the time to develop. In the end, when they realized that the players had no intention of moving away, the Hidden Dragon Village shed all pretense of cordiality and started a war with the players. However, by then the European server players were no longer as weak as they used to be. They had the power to resist. Although the Asia server was constantly fighting against each other, they had not provoked the other forces in the Devil's Spine region. They were still developing. It could be said that the development of these three servers was relatively smooth despite the different levels of difficulty. However, it was the first time for the players from the other servers to see the non-server players being killed by the local forces in the safe zone. They couldn't help but roll on the floor with laughter. Because of this, the major guilds in the non-server server were extremely annoyed. However, they couldn't beat the local forces, and neither could they negotiate with them. They had no way to deal with them. Moreover, the Beast tribe had set up camp at the foot of the mountain. They couldn't get out at all. The most heartbreaking thing for the non-server players was that there weren't many monsters left in the boundless mountain. They had no place to continue to train and develop. The non-server players had a mental breakdown. This game was 2F** King difficult. They couldn't beat the local forces, and neither could they negotiate with them. They couldn't even get out. Now, the non-server players realized that they couldn't do anything other than stand on the peak of the mountain and admire the scenery. Of course, they could also look at the surging sea of clouds on the peak of the mountain, paint, recite poems, and lament about life. Hey, rubbish game. They had a complete mental breakdown. The non-server players began to strongly protest against the unfair treatment from the Battle Alliance officials. They felt that it was too much. How could the Beast Tribe, which was initially set up, be so unreasonable? It was completely different from the other servers. At the very least, they should be given a smooth development process. The non-server players had no choice but to protest on the forum and seek help from the Battle Alliance officials. Lu Wu didn't know whether to laugh or cry after understanding the situation. However, Lu Wu didn't intend to help the non-server players. He chose the Thorn Forest in the Xianfeng region as the starting point for the non-server players because the Beast Tribe was the weakest tribe among the Qianniu tribe. Moreover, this was also a training for the non-server players. If they were to seek help from the officials whenever they encountered a crisis that they couldn't handle, it would inevitably affect the growth of the players. This was evident from the Naraka server. The Naraka players who were cursing and swearing at the beginning were now extremely calm in the face of death. They were even surprised that they didn't die once a day. Even friends who met each other in the game would greet each other like this. Hey, did you die today? How many times did you die? Compared to the hardships of the Naraka server, the non-server environment was child's play. Therefore, Lu Wu only made an announcement and ignored it. Battle Alliance non-server announcement content. There is a cause for all the situations encountered in the non-server. The opening mode of the non-server is not extremely difficult. Please find a way to break through the blockade yourself. The non-server players felt even more miserable when they saw this announcement. Even their last hope, the Battle Alliance officials had given up on them. It seemed like they were completely finished. As expected, the server that wasn't their own son was not doted on. However, it was impossible for them to quit the game and give up on the game. Many non-server players had been waiting for the opening of the Battle Alliance server in agony. For this reason, they had specially bought gaming cabins and nutrient fluids to prepare for the game. Moreover, after experiencing the game content and knowing that it was more exciting than what was advertised, how could they give up? Therefore, a large number of non-server players gritted their teeth and went online, ready to fight the Beast Tribe to the death. However, the result was the same. Once again, they were slaughtered and beaten all the way to the top of the mountain. This time, the warriors of the Beast Tribe didn't kill them. Instead, they captured all of them alive. This was because the warriors of the Beast Tribe had discovered something strange about the players. It was as if they could resurrect. Every time they killed all the players, a large wave of them would always appear again. Therefore, this time, they were prepared to kill the players in a different way. At this moment, a large number of non-server players who had been captured alive were pushed to the top of the mountain by the warriors of the Beast Tribe. To the horror of the players, they were lined up in a row and thrown down the mountain one after another. Before they died, they experienced a wave of cordless bungee jumping at high altitude. The non-server players had a mental breakdown once again. The beast-lusting tribe actually had some tricks up their sleeves. Chapter 530. They were free-falling from a mountain peak that was more than 2,000 meters high. It was very exciting, but the mentality of all the non-server players was in despair. What a trashy game! It was so realistic. They had to experience a short, yet long period of despair before they died. The non-server players were once again crushed by the warriors of the Beast Addiction tribe. After this incident, the angry non-server players all swore on the forum that they would cruelly destroy the Beast Tribe and take revenge for the many times they had killed them. Hence, the non-server players started to consult the experts on the forums of other servers, hoping to receive their help in resolving this predicament. Some of the experts provided a few solutions to the non-server players' requests. For example, they could create a diversion by forming two groups. One group would lure the Beast Addiction tribe to chase after them, while the other group would be ready to escape at any time. They could also find other mountain paths. After all, there was no such thing as a dead end in the game. Perhaps the game developers had set up a secret path down the mountain for them to sneak out. The non-server players tried the methods suggested by the players from other servers, but they all failed without exception. What made the non-server players even more terrified was that the Beast Addiction tribe's actions became more and more overboard. They seemed to have realized that the players could be revived. Hence, every time the non-server players tried to break through their tight defenses, the warriors of the Beast Addiction tribe would change their methods of killing the players. From a simple massacre at the beginning, to free-falling from a high altitude, to burying the players alive, the non-server players felt like they were going crazy. The warriors of the Beast Addiction tribe had such a twisted sense of humor. Although the non-server players grumbled about this, they tolerated it. What the F***ck were they doing? Did they think they were playing a game? However, reality proved that the warriors of the Beast Addiction tribe seemed to be treating them like experimental subjects. Their roles seemed to have been swapped. Weren't they supposed to be the ones playing the game? How did the Beast Addiction tribe end up playing with the players? Because of this, the non-server players were extremely frustrated. The non-server players' misfortune and the Beast Addiction tribe's evil sense of humor made the players of the other servers burst into laughter. This was the first time in the history of war that the players had been toyed with by the local forces of a large region. In the game, it had always been the players who caused the local forces of the game to break down. This was the first time they had encountered a situation like this. The drama became more and more interesting. Every day, a large number of players entered the forum to watch the drama unfold. The resistance of the non-server players continued, but each time they resisted, they felt mentally exhausted. Because of this, they had no idea how they would die if they were captured. There were all sorts of ways to die. There were also ways to die miserably. For this reason, Crayon Shin-chan had specially compiled a set of 1,000 ways to die for non-server players and posted it on the non-server forum for all non-server players to read. It would cause secondary damage to the non-server players' minds. Crayon Shin-chan recorded 47 ways to die of it. As the non-server players continued to struggle, crayon, and death, the non-server players gritted their teeth at Crayon Shin-chan's action of rubbing salt into their wounds. They're already in such a difficult situation, yet you still came up with a 1,000 ways to die for non-server players to deal a mental blow to our morale. Are you even human? Crayon, but Crayon, they were. He was already used to being ridiculed by foreign players, so he continued to ridicule and record. In just a few days, all the non-server players hated Crayon Shin-chan. As the saying goes, when there are too many lice, one is not afraid of being bitten. When there are too many debts, one is not afraid of being worried. He had already offended players from 4 different servers. What was wrong with adding another server to the mix? Was there a problem? From Crayon Shin-chan's point of view, being happy now was the end of the matter. He would argue and argue whenever he wanted to. He had completely entered the stage where a dead pig was not afraid of boiling water. If he was discovered, he would die anyway, so he didn't care at all. Maybe one day he would be killed by his own mother in the name of justice. So, the right thing to do now was to seize the time and be happy. Thus, Crayon Shin-chan successfully attracted a lot of hatred in the non-Chinese server and once again consolidated his position as the god of trolls in the forum. The non-server players' eyes turned red. If Crayon Shin-chan's true identity was exposed, the non-server players would eat him alive. In the past few days, Chara noticed that Jack seemed to be in a bad state of mind. After asking, he found out that the players who were still at Boundless Peak had suffered such great mental torture. They were about to be destroyed by the warriors of the Beast Clan. After a brief moment of surprise, Chara suddenly realized that his actions had dealt a huge blow to the non-server players. At this moment, Chara was also dumbfounded. He had only taken a few snow spirit worms, but he didn't expect the Beast Clan to hate the entire player clan. They even surrounded Boundless Peak. According to Jack, the warriors of the Beast Clan seemed to be researching how to completely wipe out the player clan. They tried all kinds of methods, full of the spirit of scientific research. These few times, they even used the chemical weapons developed by their own clan. The most terrifying thing was that a player was captured and drowned in a cesspool. It was said that if they still couldn't kill the player, the priest of the Beast Clan was prepared to personally use the sacrificial array. If they still couldn't kill the player, they were prepared to change to someone else. The Beast Clan, full of the spirit of scientific research, made the non-server players tremble. Chara was terrified at the thought of how they treated the players like a game. It was no wonder that Jack was in low spirits recently. He was probably about to be destroyed by the warriors of the Beast Clan. After understanding that he was the cause of all this, Chara began to think of a way to resolve the situation. Since the fault was all on him, he had to think of a way to save the non-server players from this predicament. Chara knew very well that although he was a non-server player, the other non-server players were a whole. Perhaps there was competition between the non-server players now, but in the future, they would face cross-server competition between the 5 major servers. They were a team and also an army. The non-server players had started late, and their strength was already lagging behind. If they couldn't resolve the situation, it would have a huge impact on the non-server players. Thus, Chara began to think hard. At this stage, it was obviously unrealistic for him to directly confront the Beast Clan stationed at the foot of Boundless Peak. He didn't have the strength to do so. Thinking of this, Chara suddenly thought of the Beast Pen. This place was obviously very important to the Beast Clan. After all, they reared a large number of rare spiritual beasts. If something happened to the Beast Pen, the Beast Clan would definitely choose to return to defend it. However, what worried Chara was how to enter the well-defended Beast Pen. For this, Chara began to observe the Beast Pen. Every day, he would hide in the bushes near the Beast Pen and observe the distribution and movements of the Beast Pen's troops. While Chara was working hard, the non-server players were still living a miserable life. But at the same time, their anger was accumulating bit by bit as they were tortured. As players, how could they not feel angry at being toyed with like this? All the non-server players secretly swore to take revenge for this. Chapter 531. During this period, the non-server players became the focus of Battle Royale's players. This was because the non-server players were in a terrible situation. For 5 consecutive days, they were stuck at Boundless Peak with nowhere to retreat or advance. Under such conditions, the non-server players could only attack the Beastkin tribe's troops again and again. They wanted to learn from the other server players and kill the Beastkin tribe until they vomited blood. However, this tactic was clearly ineffective against the Beastkin tribe. This was because the Beastkin tribe was different from the other underworld races that the players had encountered. This race was extremely curious and had a desire to explore. At this moment, the players had completely become their experimental subjects. It was impossible for the players to kill them until they vomited blood. Instead, they began to play with them in different ways. At this moment, the non-server players were filled with grief and indignation. They tried every method, but all of them failed without exception. However, in the face of such a difficult situation, the non-server players united. The civil war subsided, and they began to work together to deal with the Beastkin tribe's devastation. The posts on the non-server forum were also discussing how to break through the blockade. With the unity of will, the non-server players' desire for victory continued to grow. At this moment, a post suddenly appeared on the non-server forum, attracting the attention of many non-server players. Unlucky ones Have you ever wondered why the Beastkin tribe is so hostile toward the players? I think there's more to it than meets the eye. Content. Greetings, unlucky ones. I'm the author of Unconvinced Death. I believe everyone is familiar with me, laughing emoji. I also know that everyone wants to criticize me, laughing emoji. Go ahead and criticize me. Don't mind me, but don't hold it in, laughing emoji. As for the purpose of this post, I want to tell all of you something. Why don't you consider why the Beastkin tribe is so hostile toward you? After interacting with them for the past few days, I believe everyone has realized that the warriors of the Beastkin tribe are intelligent creatures. Although they have strange tempers, they're a race that can be communicated with. However, their hostility toward the players is very abrupt. Regarding this, I have 2 points of analysis. First, the eastern part of the Thorn Forest is the territory of the Beast tribe. If you enter their territory, you will naturally be viewed with hostility. It would be normal for them to start a war against you. When the European server first launched, the Hidden Dragon Swamp they were in was also the Hidden Dragon Ghost General's territory. The Hidden Dragon Ghost General chose to force the unfamiliar player clan into submission instead of starting a war. He hoped that the European server players would take the initiative to retreat. However, the Beast Crazed tribe's reaction was completely different. Without saying a word, they went back and forth to the players' safe zone. This was very abnormal. It did not seem like something an intelligent race would do. Of course, there was also another possibility. Perhaps the beast-loving tribe was just that barbaric. If they didn't like the beast-loving tribe, they wanted to kill them until they went extinct. His second guess was that a player had done something that angered the beast tribe. The unlucky ones can refer to the Great Demon King on this point. When he goes crazy, he can destroy the players. During the early stages of the original server's development, he likes to increase the difficulty of survival for the original players. So, do you think there is such a possibility? For example, if a player or a group of players did something that triggered a strong reaction from the Beast Crazed tribe, the Beast Crazed tribe would immediately view the players as invaders and order breakers. In other words, they would be enemies. I believe that the veteran players who are familiar with Battle Campaign would know that in the underworld, no matter how harsh the living environment was, all forces would always exist as a single race. Therefore, as long as a portion of the players did something that angered the Beast Crazed tribe, the Beast Crazed tribe would obviously treat the entire player race as an enemy. This is because, in their eyes, the players are an entire force. If the truth is, as I have guessed, then the unlucky ones should seriously consider whether it was their own people who did something. After all, the Battle Campaign officials would never give you a super difficult problem that you can't solve at the start of the game. This point can be referred to the Naraka server. Since the survival difficulty is so high, they have directly opened up a random revival mode so that they can develop in such a harsh environment. Lastly, the development of the plot in Battle Campaign does not revolve around the players. Instead, it operates as an independent system. You are just a participant. Some things that happen in Battle Campaign will cause a chain reaction. Many things that you might think are out of the ordinary must have happened in the dark. There must be many truths that you have not seen. Looking at you guys in such a miserable state, I feel sorry for you. I can't help but want to give you some advice. Don't thank me. Helping others makes me happy. Crayon Shinchan's post caused an uproar in the non-official server. As one of the players with the highest online rate in the forum, Crayon Shinchan's ability to criticize others made the players gnash their teeth. However, his understanding of the game was also beyond the reach of many players. After all, Crayon Shinchan had read countless posts on strategy guides and had a solid foundation. In fact, Crayon Shinchan could be considered one of the players who had the most thorough research on Battle Campaign. Therefore, his analysis attracted the attention of the non-official server players, and they felt that what Crayon Shinchan said made sense. It was obviously a little strange that the Beast Rush tribe would be so hostile to them. Therefore, the non-official server players mobilized to investigate the matter. At this moment, all the non-official server players were filled with anger and really needed a target to vent their anger. Under Crayon Shinchan's guidance, the non-official server players shifted their focus and began to try to find the culprit. The power of the players was undoubtedly huge. It seemed like there were no clues at all, but the players still managed to find some clues. Soon, the non-official server players locked onto a target. Chara. That was because the problem with Chara was too big. First, it was on the level leaderboard. Now that the entire non-official server had entered a stage where leveling up had stopped, no one could break through the blockade. Other than enjoying the scenery on the mountain peak, how could one possibly fight monsters and level up? However, the players discovered that Chara's level was actually increasing every day. There were no monsters to kill in the entire boundless peak, so Chara's level increase was particularly eye-catching. Obviously, Chara was not in the boundless peak at the moment, but in the thorn forest outside. Naturally, the non-official server players could not come to a conclusion based on this clue alone. However, soon they found a second clue. That was an item in the auction house had attracted the attention of the players. The corpse of the snow spirit worm. Chara did not use all of the snow spirit worms. In order to save money to buy a gaming cabin, he threw one of them into the auction house, offered a high price, and hung it there. The non-official server players did not pay attention to this thing before, but now that they thought about it, they felt that its origin was very strange. The non-official server players had searched the entire boundless peak, but they were certain that such a worm did not exist. It was obviously obtained from the outside world. Moreover, this snow spirit worm's introduction showed that it was a reared worm. In this eastern thorn forest, the only force that could rear spirit beasts was the Beast Addiction tribe. The non-official server players had also learned about the value of spirit beasts from other servers. This was an item that could be compared to high-grade spiritual materials, and its value was very high. If the players had stolen the spirit beasts, it was understandable that the Beast Addiction tribe would be angry. These 2 points could explain why the Beast Addiction tribe was so hostile towards the players. It was obvious that the spirit beasts they reared were stolen, and they thought that the players were provoking and declaring war on them, so they retaliated angrily. Of course, although these 2 points could explain why the Beast Addiction tribe was hostile towards the players, they still could not confirm that it was Chara who had stolen the snow spirit worms. This was because it could have been done by other players, but they had been killed back to the boundless peak. However, when the third clue appeared, the non-official server players' emotions exploded. On the 7th day after the mountain was sealed, another snow spirit worm was put up in the auction house. This time, Chara's suspicions rose sharply. Although the non-official server players could not confirm that Chara was the only one who had escaped the lockdown. However, Chara was undoubtedly the most suspicious if he had the ability to repeatedly steal the snow spirit worms from the Beast Addiction tribe. After all, he was a wall-level player with a winning streak of 103 in the individual arena. In an instant, Chara was condemned by both mouth and pen. The non-official server players felt that they had finally found the culprit, and they were all riled up. Now, the non-official server players understood that it was not that the Battle League officials did not love them, nor was it that their original plans to fight against the local forces were useless. It was that someone had angered the Beast Addiction tribe in advance and increased the difficulty of the game. The clues were still being found, but the non-official server players could basically confirm that Chara was the culprit. Their anger was brewing. At this moment, the non-official server players decided that as long as there was a chance to get out, they would hunt Chara down and punish him harshly. This was to thank him for increasing the difficulty of the non-official server's growth. If the boundless peak was not blocked by the Beast Addiction tribe, the players would not have been able to hold back and would have gone out to search for Chara. They would have killed him at least 100 times to vent their anger. After confirming the truth, the non-official server players finally could not wait any longer. Faced with the undefeatable Beast Addiction tribe, they decided to adopt the most extreme and most unwilling decision: dig a hole. It seemed like there was no other way to deal with the situation. Therefore, the non-official server players began to mobilize. Starting from the mountainside, they planned to dig a tunnel downwards. After that, the non-official server workers began to diligently dig the tunnel. After a discussion, the non-official server guilds divided the work. Countless players joined in, preparing for a huge project. During this period, there were those who dug, those who transported, and those who commanded on the spot. The work was in full swing. Since there was no way out, the non-official server players decided to dig one out. All the players were prepared to work for a long time. The performance of the non-official server players made the other server players burst into laughter once again. Not only were they forced to wait at the resurrection point since the start of the server, but they were also forced to work. Carrying bricks was so realistic that the other server players were in awe. While the other server players were amused by the fact that they were forced to play the game to such an extent, they were also in awe of them. They were so *king hardworking. There were even players from other servers who had applied for cross-server support from the officials, hoping to help the poor, non-official server players get through the early stage of the game. Lu Wu, who understood all this, did not know whether to laugh or cry. He felt that these non-official server players were simply talented. How could they have such thoughts? Although the physique of the non-official server players was a few times stronger than in reality, such a huge project was simply a waste of time. At this moment, Lu Wu compromised. He was completely convinced. If he allowed the non-official server players to continue like this, it would be a complete waste of time for them to grow. The loss outweighed the gain. Helpless, Lu Wu finally decided to open an expedition hack for the non-official server players. Therefore, on the same day, an announcement rang in all 5 servers at the same time. Server-wide announcement: the cross-server expedition system is officially activated. Target: the land of Xianfeng. Server-wide announcement: the servers for this cross-server expedition are Beiki, Cangshu, Hell, and Devil's Spine. Chapter 532. As soon as the announcement was made, the players in all the servers were in an uproar. The cross-server expedition had only appeared in Beiki before. The other servers had never received such a world-class, large-scale mission. The rewards of the cross-server expedition were also very generous to the players. Usually, killing monsters would only earn experience and soul coins. However, in the cross-server expedition, killing monsters would be rewarded with military merits. Military merits could be exchanged for military ranks, which had additional attribute bonuses similar to titles. Apart from these, there were also many special rewards, such as resurrection items, super attribute enhancement items, and so on. Military rank skills could only be obtained in the cross-server expedition. How could the players in other servers not be envious? They wondered when their servers would also have such an opportunity. Just because Beiki had launched the cross-server expedition twice, many players in other servers were dissatisfied. They felt that the Beiki players were being treated too well, and that the opportunity to cross servers should come in turn. However, the opportunity had finally arrived. How could the players in all the servers not be excited? One by one, they clicked on the registration panel and started to sign up. The number of applicants for the cross-server expedition skyrocketed. Although Lu Wu had set a limit of 10 minutes for the registration, it was still too much to handle the number of players who had signed up. None of the players wanted to miss the opportunity to receive free benefits. Whether or not they could help the non-servers to break through the blockade was secondary. The reward was the most important thing. In just a few minutes, more than a quarter of the players in each server had successfully signed up. There were also many players who had heard about the cross-server expedition and were rushing home. They did not want to miss it. The popularity was completely beyond Lu Wu's imagination. At this moment, he could not help but facepalm. He initially thought that 10 minutes was enough to limit the number of applicants, but now it seemed that he had completely miscalculated. The boundless peak was not too high above sea level, but it covered a wide area. It would be crowded if so many players were transported there at once. When the registration ended in 10 minutes, Lu Wu looked at the number of applicants. 980 million. Lu Wu could not imagine the scene when the cross-server expedition officially started. He guessed that many players would be squeezed off the cliff as soon as they entered, and it would be normal for them to be trampled. After all, with so many people, there were bound to be a few unlucky ones. After everything was ready, Lu Wu took a deep breath, activated the artifact, and started the cross-server expedition. At this moment, the server announcement rang. Server-wide announcement. Cross-server expedition officially begins. Countdown 10, 9, 8, 7, 1. When the countdown ended, white pillars of light descended from the sky and enveloped the players of all the major servers. In an instant, the consciousness of these registered players was shielded. They entered the artifact and were transported to the Xianfeng territory through the artifact. Hearing that the cross-server expedition was about to begin, the non-server players were also extremely excited. This meant that they finally didn't have to dig anymore. The working people were liberated. It was so King exciting. Just like that, amidst the anticipation, countless white lights appeared in every corner of the boundless mountains. The silhouettes of the cross-server players gradually became clear. At this time, the server announcement sounded again. Server-wide announcement. The inter-server expedition has officially begun. Players participating in the inter-server expedition may kill the warriors of the non-server hostile force, Beast Addict Tribe, to earn military points to exchange for military titles and special items. As the white light dissipated, the Doomsday Army assembled for the first time. Naraka's technological army, mecha warriors, tanks, and even airplanes, all sorts of technological products flashing with a metallic luster, arrived domineeringly the European server's Necromancer Black Robe Army. Countless beasts gathered to form the Death Knight Army. The atmosphere was cold and austere, full of deterrence. The Asia server's superpower army, the Alien Warrior Army, and the strongest, the self-proclaimed Baiki Doomsday Army. Compared to the non-server players who were still holding white equipment, the equipment of these 4 cross-server reinforcements was absolutely overwhelming. The difference was unbearable to look at. At this moment, the non-server players felt like they were really like refugees. Looking at the splendidly equipped reinforcements, they only had one thought in their mind. How King envious. At this moment, the mountains and plains were filled with the players. After a short silence, the cross-server players rushed down the mountain in a frenzy. CK, go get them! The Baiki army is the best in the world. Ah, military points. It's my first time getting military points. Don't stop me. I want to fight 100,000 of them. Report the Naraka server for cheating. What the CK is flying a plane. Is the Naraka server developing so fast? Does the Asia server not care about their reputation? How can Baiki and the European server run so fast? Their attributes are amazing. Aha! I don't know what to shout. I'm so excited. It's the first time a cross-server newbie is reporting. CK, what's that priest's name? Didn't you tell me that you don't like fighting and killing? Why are they running so fast? Get lost, don't get in my way. If you keep pushing, I'll kill you too. Have some manners. Those who block me from getting military points, die! Are you all crazy? Can't you just rush down in an orderly manner? Do you know the formation? Do you know the strategy? Strategy my ass. Get lost. Let me go. Don't block the way or I'll kill you too. You bastard from the Naraka server. Your tank is crushing me. I almost died from your pressure. I'm just a fragile mage. Can't you be gentler? After a brief silence, the earthquake happened. The entire boundless peak was shaking, and the scene was extremely chaotic. At this moment, the players only had one thought in their minds, and that was to run quickly. Don't let these bastards steal all the military points. Seeing this scene, the non-server players trembled in fear. They looked at the white weapons in their hands, then at the fully equipped players from the other servers in front of them. They wanted to cry, but no tears came out. They wondered why the non-server players were so pitiful. If they didn't compare, they wouldn't know. However, When they thought about how they would be able to take revenge soon, the non-server players became excited. They shouted and rushed down with the players from the 4 servers. At this moment, they wanted the Beast Rush tribe to pay with their blood. Below them, the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe stationed at the foot of the mountain also noticed the abnormality of the boundless peak. The ground was shaking violently, as if something was about to happen. Under the leadership of the Beast Rush tribe priest, the tribe quickly assembled. At this moment, the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe had a sinister look on their faces, because they knew that their test subjects were coming again. They could be happy again. However, it was obvious that they had guessed wrong this time. When the army of players appeared before them, they were instantly dumbfounded. Mounts, battle armors, and glowing equipment, the players were still players, but compared to before, these players were not to be trifled with. Kill. The players didn't care whether the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe were shocked or not. Like a torrent, they rushed down from the mountain and charged into the battle of the Beast Rush tribe. At this moment, the cross-server battle had officially begun. In the past, when they fought against the non-server players, the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe could basically kill one player with a single hammer strike. They could even kill several players with a single hammer strike. However, this time they were facing the 4 calamity armies that had matured. When they encountered classes with high defense, such as zombies and death knights, they couldn't even kill them with 10 hammer strikes. Previously, when the non-server players fought, they mainly relied on basic attacks. However, the players of the 4 calamity armies continuously used all sorts of dazzling skills, completely defeating the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe. What the F***CK? Why did they change overnight? Retreat! Retreat! At this moment, the priest of the Beast Rush tribe began to shout anxiously, "Retreat my ass! Stay here!" A player leaped into the air and swung his staff at the priest's head, causing him to stumble. In the eyes of the players, fleeing during the cross-server battle was too much. The earning of military merits had just begun. How could they let them escape? In terms of harvesting, the Naraka server was incomparably ferocious. Bombs, grenades, and bullets rained down in a frenzy, covering an area of effect. This undoubtedly made the players of the original server, the European server, and the Asian server unhappy. Hence, as they advanced, they decisively killed the players of the Naraka server as well. After all, there were only so many warriors of the Beast Rush tribe in front of them. All the players had the same mentality. Whoever dared to snatch the points would be the enemy. In the past, the players of the 4 main servers would only argue and spit at each other on the forum. However, this time they were fighting with real guns and live ammunition. Crazy, crazy! As they retreated, the priest couldn't help but mutter. In his eyes, these players had all changed. Not only did their strength skyrocket, but they had also all gone crazy. They continuously hammered the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe. When they became ruthless, they would even attack their own people. They were simply crazy. However, to the players, this was extremely normal. After all, it was a cross-server battle. Only the people from their own server would be attacked and protected. Since the other servers were in their way, they would just kill them. The situation became more and more chaotic. At this moment, the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe were so terrified that they could only retreat. Meanwhile, the players followed closely behind. They were like fierce beasts, devouring the warriors along the way. At the same time, they attacked each other as they advanced. Dismantle this mech. This bastard's killing efficiency is too high. He can't be left alive. Kill this sorcerer. He kills monsters quickly. EEA missiles lock onto him. Focus fire. Open fire. The live chat channels of the various servers were in a mess. As long as someone killed monsters quickly, they would be considered a potential threat by the players of the other servers. Then, they would have to face the combined attacks of the players of the other servers. At this moment, the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe were on the verge of tears. They felt that the death experiment had mutated the player clan. It was too scary. At this moment, They wished they had 4 legs so that they could run faster. Meanwhile, the players were in a frenzy. They killed with vigor. Apart from those they acknowledged, everyone else was an enemy. They were going to bash them to death. Rune masters wrestled with steel mechs, necromancers clashed with superpower users with spells. Beast riders clashed with paragons. In the eyes of the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe, the player clan's image went from being weak chickens that could be slaughtered at will to an evil force that would even kill their own people. The situation was too chaotic. Although the Beast Rush tribe kept retreating, they couldn't escape the pursuit of the players. Their casualties continued to increase. At this moment, the players of the other servers arrived and joined in the chase. However, the excited players of the other servers didn't expect that the ones who would bash their heads would not be the Beast Rush tribe, but the people they thought were their allies. In the eyes of the players of the other 4 servers who had come to reinforce them, the players of the other servers were here to help. They were already here to help, yet the players of the other servers still wanted to steal their kills. Were they even human? Therefore, not only did they not show any mercy to the players of the other servers, they even tried to kill them. At this moment, the players of the other servers had a mental breakdown. They killed their own people. The people of the other servers were like dogs. They were utterly heartless. They deserved to die a horrible death. Chapter 5:33. As a group of newbies, the non-server players were looking forward to the arrival of the players from the other 4 servers. They thought that they would be able to take revenge on the Beastkin tribe under their leadership and kill to their heart's content. However, they didn't expect the veteran players to be so ruthless. While they were hunting down the Beastkin tribe, they were also killing their own people. They were even so cruel to the non-server players. A large number of non-server players were taken offline by the brutal battle veterans while they were still in a daze. At this moment, the non-server players were filled with grief and indignation. They felt that the veteran players of the other 4 servers were useless. What was so great about bullying the newbies? However, to the players of the other 4 servers, the non-server players were the ones who asked for it. In their eyes, the warriors of the Beastkin tribe were worth of merit points that could be exchanged for items in the merit point shop. How could they allow the players of the other servers to take their merit points? In any case, anyone who tried to steal their merit points was an enemy. No matter what server they were from, they would destroy them all. The frenzied players killed their way forward, and the situation became more and more chaotic. B***starred sneak attack. Do you think that I, a mage, can't fight in close combat? Eat my staff. Guild leader, fire the cannons. Blow them up. That assassin, don't run. How dare you kill our cleric? I'll kill you. Die. Kill, kill, kill. All the merit points are mine. The warriors of the Beastkin tribe were scared out of their wits. This was too cruel. It was understandable that they were hunting them down. After all, they were enemies. However, they were being even more cruel to their own people. What kind of crazy behavior was this? Even the leading priest was dumbfounded by this scene, and his body trembled slightly. At this moment, a mecha suddenly appeared beside him. Under the horrified gaze of the shaman, a silver-white vibration blade suddenly slashed at his neck. As a shaman of the Beastkin tribe, although he had a high status, his forte was the study of spells and witchcraft. His physique was weak, and he had no way of dealing with the sudden attack. Just as he thought that his life was about to end, a figure rushed over from the side and sent the mecha warrior in front of him flying with a single punch. "Aha, this is mine. How dare you snatch it?" Under the astonished gaze of the priest, this burly man with many jewels embedded on his body pounced on the fallen mech warrior. He raised his fist and punched the mech warrior's face. "Kill stealing? Who the hell do you think you are? Kill stealing? I'll kill you. Believe it or not, if you don't know what's good for you, I'll smash your head first." The priestess gaped at the players killing each other. Her mind couldn't keep up. He was actually saved by the enemy? However, the beast devourer priest didn't dare to stay any longer. He took the opportunity to turn around and run. "I almost died. I might not have such a chance next time. However, in this chaotic battlefield, such scenes could be seen everywhere. There was only one thought in the minds of the players of the 4 great servers. These monsters were all mine. Either they were killed by our players, or they were killed by our players. In any case, they could not let them fall into the hands of other players. Hence, the players did all they could to save the beastly warriors who were about to die at the hands of players from other servers. The warriors of the Beast Desire tribe had never experienced such a chaotic battle before. Some were protecting themselves, some were killing themselves, and some were killing their own people. They didn't even know who to attack when they fought back. They always felt that one of them was on their side. Otherwise, why would they protect themselves? The pursuit continued. However, many of the players had reached level 100, and some had even passed the Ghost Commander trial. There was no way for them to escape. They were tortured along the way. As they got closer to the tribe's camp, the desire to live grew stronger in the hearts of the Beast Desire tribe warriors. They quickened their pace, gritted their teeth, and ran for their lives. Toot, toot, toot! At this moment, a loud and clear war horn sounded from afar. Upon hearing the horn, the eyes of the fleeing Beast Desire tribe warriors lit up. They knew that reinforcements were coming. The morale of the entire Beast Desire tribe rose. They knew that the time to fight back had finally arrived. When an incomparably large army of Beast Desire tribe approached from every corner of the dense forest and appeared in their field of vision, the warriors of the Beast Desire tribe finally stopped running. Instead, they turned around and prepared to fight back. Their expressions turned ferocious. However, they didn't expect the players to show no signs of fear when they saw so many Beast Desire tribe warriors. Instead, their expressions gradually changed from surprise to excitement, and then to malevolence. F***CK, there are so many merit points. We're rich. Getting rich has nothing to do with you. It's all mine. F***CK you. Go to hell first. Ha ha ha, there are so many of them. I thought that this would be the end after killing all of them. It's two. The players were excited as they faced the main force of the Beast Desire tribe. They had been fighting each other earlier because there were only so many monsters, and there wasn't enough to fight for. However, things were different now. With such a large army of Beast Desire tribe warriors, they were like a mountain of merit points. How could they not be excited? Kill. At this moment, the players changed their target without hesitation and decisively charged toward the Beast Desire tribe's army. At this moment, the chief of the Beast Desire tribe, who was leading the army, was also stunned. When he received the distress signal, he thought that the tribe stationed at the foot of the mountain was in danger. However, when he looked around, he saw that the number of players was several times that of his tribe's warriors. He couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. If they really fought this battle, they would have to use up all their resources. At this thought, the chief of the Beast Desire tribe hurriedly shouted angrily, "Stop! Let's talk. Is there a misunderstanding? Talk my A***s. Can there be soul coins in a negotiation? Experience points? Merit points? You refuse to negotiate. Die." Previously, the Beast Desire tribe was unwilling to negotiate with the non-server players. However, this time the players who had come from a long distance also didn't want to negotiate with the Beast Desire tribe. To the players who had come from a long distance, negotiation was a joke. So what if they offended the Beast Desire tribe? So what if they offended all the factions in the Blackwind region? On the other hand, they would only come for a few hours and kill to their heart's content. They would leave the mess to the non-server players. Would they be stupid enough to negotiate with them? Hence, the players didn't listen to the Beast Desire tribe chief. Like a flood, they charged into the Beast Desire tribe and began their massacre. This scene left the Beastkin tribe's tribal chief dumbfounded. After all, the Beast Desire tribe was a subordinate tribe of the Cheonyo tribe. The Beast Desire tribe didn't give them any face by charging into their territory. They were basically trying to start a war. However, to the players, they could just kill and leave. It didn't matter to them whether the non-server players suffered or not. Hence, the players didn't have any qualms. They charged into the Beast Desire tribe valiantly and began their massacre. The Beast Desire tribe chief gritted his teeth at the players' attitude. He had no choice but to command his tribesmen to fight. However, the Beast Desire tribe chief quickly regretted his decision. He only had about 10 million tribesmen, but the number of players was endless. He suspected that the number of players was equal to the total military strength of the entire Blackwind region. An invasion from another region? When this thought appeared in his mind, the Beast Desire tribe chief couldn't help but shiver. To him, a war between regions was a long and endless war. Only when a faction from a large region fell would the war stop. This was too scary. As the Beast Desire tribe chief, he felt that he was in big trouble. Seeing his tribesmen dying in large numbers, the Beast Desire tribe chief couldn't take it anymore. He hurriedly ordered his tribesmen to retreat. How could the players let them go? They raised their swords, spears, cudgels, staffs, hammers, battle axes, lightsabers, magic staffs, and other weapons as they continued their pursuit. There was only half an hour left before the expedition ended. The players were also anxious. They looked at the merit points in front of them, but they couldn't bring them all away. This feeling was too unbearable. As players, their motto was to take all of the merit points. Moreover, there were close to 1 billion players participating in this expedition. Many players were still chasing after the Beast Desire tribe. They hadn't even seen what the Beast Men looked like. The resentment in these players' hearts grew. They felt that they were only here to make up the numbers. At this moment, their eyes were bloodshot as they charged forward madly. They wanted to make a killing at the last moment. The players in front of them chased after the Beastmen with all their might while taunting them. They even cursed the Beastmen's ancestors. They wanted to infuriate the Beastmen so that they would turn back and fight. This undoubtedly dealt a second blow to the Beastmen's morale. The Beastmen were very good at inflicting mental damage. They could torture non-local players until they were hovering between life and death. However, it was clear that the veteran players were more proficient in this aspect. This was especially true for the original players. The factions they defeated had all experienced mental damage. It could be said that they were very skilled at drawing aggro. As they chased after the Beastmen, a large encampment surrounded by wooden fences appeared in front of them. Under the tribe leader's command, the Beastmen at the back turned around and began to counterattack. The Beastmen at the front swarmed into the encampment. When the players saw that they had already reached the Beastmen tribe's headquarters, they couldn't help but grin. They knew that the Beastmen had nowhere else to run. It was time for them to learn what an evil faction was, what the fourth calamity was, and what the law of the jungle meant. The flames of war were ignited. The players at the back arrived one after another and joined the battle. Seeing his tribesmen fall in droves, the Beastmen chief felt his heart bleed. After this battle, the Beastmen tribe would definitely suffer great losses. They wouldn't be able to recover without a few hundred years. However, at this moment, he was more worried about the war between the major regions. If these players really came from other regions, then the Blackwind region would be in danger. Regardless of whether they won or lost, the price they would have to pay would be incomparably heavy. Although the Beastmen tribe also believed in the law of the jungle, they were too insignificant in the face of the war between the major regions. They might very well be the sacrificial lambs. How could they not be worried? Just like the Beastmen tribe chief, the non-local players were also very worried. Many players stood on the mountain and watched the clouds gather and scatter. They were so worried that they looked haggard. At this moment, they didn't dare to go down the mountain. If they went down, they would be beaten up. They might even get their heads smashed. Whether it was the Beastmen tribe or the players from the other servers, they were all despicable. They only knew how to bully noobs. All the non-local players were filled with resentment. They swore to themselves that one day, when the non-local players rose to power, they would pay them back double. No, double. Chapter 534. Just as the non-server players were filled with resentment, the players who had come on an expedition were already tearing down the Beast Clan's buildings. The players were furious when they saw the Beast Clan members cowering in their encampment. Time was ticking away, and they didn't have much time to earn merit points. Yet they were still cowering in their encampment. Defending my ass. Why are you coming at us head-on? That's ridiculous. Hence, the frenzied players began to tear down the Beast Clan's wooden fences and pushed forward in a frenzy. The Beast Clan could only grit their teeth and hold on bitterly against the frenzied players' attacks. As the players destroyed the specially made wooden fences, the Beast Clan chief's eyes turned bloodshot. He knew that the Beast Clan survival was at stake. Behind the clan was a steep mountain peak. There was no way out. He could only roar and command his clansmen to resist. However, his resistance was powerless against nearly 1 billion frenzied players. Since the players' arrival was too sudden, it was too late for the Beast Clan chief to request reinforcements from the Cheonyo tribe. Under the pressure of the players, the Beast Clan was forced to retreat while resisting. This scene was very similar to when the non-server players were surrounded by the Beast Clan and forced to retreat to the mountain peak. However, this time, it was the players' turn to block the safe zone. Despair spread in the hearts of the Beast Clan warriors. Even though they had already killed many players, there was still an endless number of them. The players were everywhere in the sky and on the ground. It seemed as though there was no end to them. Under such circumstances, the Beast Clan warriors could only retreat bit by bit. However, when their backs were pressed against the mountain wall and there was no way out, all the Beast Clan warriors let out cries of grief and indignation. At this moment, they seemed to have no other choice but to fight with their lives on the line. Just as the Beast Clan chief and warriors thought that the Beast Clan would be destroyed in this battle, something unexpected happened. The players who were pushing forward with ferocious expressions a moment ago suddenly froze on the spot in fear. Their expressions quickly changed from fear to despair to anger. F***CK. Dog officials, don't. Please, let me kill another one. It's already low on HP. Dog officials, I'll die a horrible death. We're about to reap a great harvest at this critical moment, and you're doing this to me. I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to stay here. Dog officials, please pay more. Please pay more. Don't. At this moment, the ferocious-looking players were locked in place by the divine artifact. They could only curse, unable to resist. Following which, under the astonished gazes of the Beast Hunter tribe's warriors, all of the players vanished from where they stood. However, before they left, the players' gazes were filled with longing and yearning, causing the Beastkin warriors to involuntarily shudder. That gaze was like the gaze of death, causing them to feel incomparably terrified. Even the evil players were powerless against the rules set by Lu Wu. In the end, they could only leave while cursing. What was left were the warriors of the Beast Rush tribe, who were bewildered, terrified, and in despair. At this moment, the incomparably ferocious force of players suddenly disappeared. Nothing was left behind. However, the corpses of their tribesmen on the ground made the warriors of the Beast Addiction tribe realize that this wasn't a dream. After this battle, the Beast Addict tribe was completely defeated. The ruthlessness of the players, who would even kill their own allies, was deeply imprinted in their minds. They were truly afraid of the players' forces. After all, it wasn't worth it to anger the lunatics' forces with the help of the players of the 4 major servers. The opportunity for the non-servers' rise had finally arrived. But before entering the big development, they were prepared to properly thank Chara. On the second day after the players of the major servers returned to their respective regions, at this moment, the players were still discussing yesterday's cross-server expedition in the forum. The cross-server expedition this time was extremely satisfying for the players. Not only did they get to slay the opposing forces to earn merit points, but they also got to kill the players of other servers who used to argue in the forum. However, even after the cross-server expedition ended, the players still held grudges in their hearts. They felt that if the stupid officials had delayed the cross-server expedition, they would have been able to take over the Beast Addiction tribe in one go. That would have been the real deal. It was infuriating to return at such a crucial moment. However, the stupid officials set the expedition time of 1 hour and had no intention of changing it at all. Faced with the inconsiderate and unscrupulous battle campaign officials who kept their word, the players could do nothing but curse in the forum. After all, the attitude of the stupid officials had always been, play if you like, or get lost if you don't. It was simply unrealistic to ask them to keep the players. The all-powerful players in the game always felt that they were the weak forces that were being bullied by the battle campaign officials. They were pitiful and weak, and they always felt wronged. This was also one of the reasons why the players strongly requested the battle campaign officials to open a top-up channel. After all, even if they were not the boss after topping up, they should at least have some say. At the very least, the battle campaign officials would consider the players' feelings when the time came. However, it had been more than 2 years since the launch of Battle Campaign. The stupid officials were still stingy with soul coins and were never willing to give out benefits, let alone the top-up channel. For other games, there should at least be a daily check-in event to give the players something to look forward to. However, apart from the festive activities, the Battle Campaign had no benefits at all. The players hated the Battle Campaign officials as much as they loved them. They always felt that the stupid officials were stingy. However, today the Bakey players were very excited and looking forward to it. This was because today was the day that the Battle Campaign officials would bleed. The Chishi Festival, also known as the Chichiao Festival, was a traditional festival of the Chi Dragon Nation, full of romance. While the other servers were cursing that their own son would die a horrible death, the Bakey players were looking forward to the start of the festive activities happily. However, the original server players were also a little worried. After all, there was once a Valentine's Day where the stupid officials did not make any moves and had no intention of opening up the festive activities. Therefore, the players were afraid that the stupid officials would do the same thing this time. As time passed, the players started to panic. When it was noon and the Chishi Festival still had not started, the original server players were panicking. Even the single players were looking forward to the Chishi Festival, not to eat dog food, but to freeload off the benefits of the event. After all, with soul coins and other resources, even if the dog food was stuck in their throats, they could only pinch their noses and swallow it. At around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the original server players who still could not wait for the event to start could not help but protest on the forum. For this reason, the players listed hundreds of reasons why they had to start the event. For example, the Chishi Festival was a traditional festival of the Chi Dragon Nation. If the event was not held in the game, it would be an act of unpatriotism. It must be held, and they strongly requested for it to be held. There were also players who said that today was the romantic day when the cowherd and the weaver maid met. Such a day was worth commemorating. As a game with a huge influence, the Battle Campaign officials wanted to commemorate this day with the players. There were even players who said that there were a lot of children playing the Battle Campaign. Nowadays, most of them had forgotten about traditional festivals. As the Battle Campaign officials, they should start this event to let the children remember that today was the Chishi Festival. Such an action would be a great virtue. There were all kinds of opinions in the forum, leaving Lu Wu dumbfounded. Although he was used to the players' ability to make up stories to achieve their goals, this time, Lu Wu still felt that these idiotic netizens were really talented. As he read through the posts in the forum, Lu Wu almost thought that he was a sinner in history. It was really amazing. However, Lu Wu was already prepared for the Chishi Festival. When it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just when the players thought that the stupid officials were going to cancel the event again, the Chishi Festival began. At the same time, the entire Mansion of the Dead was refurbished. The color of every building changed. Colorful lights hung from the ceiling, and colorful ribbons swayed in the wind. It was a romantic Chishi Festival. Server announcement: the Chishi Festival, Golden Breeze and Dew, will officially start at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Chishi Festival Event 1, Concentric Knot, Event Introduction. During the Chishi Festival, all players can register to participate in the event on the event panel. After the registration is successful, the player will receive the quest item, Concentric Knot Incomplete. After receiving the quest item, the player can find a player of the opposite sex in the game to complete the incomplete concentric knot and complete the Chishi Festival quest. Event requirement: complete the concentric knot for 1 hour. During this time, you are not allowed to log off. Logging off will be considered as a failure and time will return to 0. Blessings: the golden wind and jade do meet, surpassing countless things in the world. Chinese Valentine's Day, Event 2. The Wrath of a Single Dog. Event Introduction. During the Chinese Valentine's Day event, all players can register to participate in this event through the event interface. Upon successful registration, players will receive the quest item, Tears of a Single Dog. After using this item, the player will be transformed into a single dog and be able to destroy the mission item Concentric Knots, turning it into its initial incomplete state. Players who participate in the Concentric Knots event will have their mission time reset to 0. They are not allowed to combine concentric knots within 10 minutes. Event requirements: players who choose this event must complete the Concentric Knot Destruction mission 5 times during the Chinese Valentine's Day mission. Event blessing: woof, 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 howl. For this Chinese Valentine's Day event, players could only choose to participate in one event. The rewards for both events were the same. Players who chose the first event would receive an additional special effect, meeting on the Magpie Bridge, after completing the Concentric Knot mission. Event reward: Chishi Fortune Pouch, random item, 100 soul coins, Instance Dungeon Entry X10. The players were extremely excited when they saw that the lousy officials had finally started the Chinese Valentine's Day event. However, when they saw the content of the event, some of the players were instantly dumbfounded, while some of the players' faces gradually turned ferocious. On the other side were the players with couples. When they saw the special effect of the meeting on the Magpie Bridge, they were deeply attracted. Naturally, they would choose the first event without hesitation. However, this mission was not smooth sailing because the lousy officials had even set up a hostile force. Single dogs. Deep sorrow rose in the hearts of the couples. However, in the eyes of some players, the second event, the Wrath of a Single Dog, was such a thoughtful event. They had to eat dog food every year, and this year they could finally take revenge. Hence, when it was 5 o'clock, the event officially began. The howling of the single dogs resounded throughout Beiki. Many players who chose the second event transformed into small and cute single dogs, ready to begin their grand plan of destruction. Although she had a cute face, what she did was insane. On the other hand, the players who chose the first event were like eloping couples. Faced with the pursuit of the landlord's evil dog, they could only play hide and seek. They were pitiful, helpless, and somewhat exciting. Beiki was filled with a joyous atmosphere, with occasional excited barks. Chapter 535. The whole of Beiki was bustling during the Battle Royale event. It was always the happiest moment for the players when the Battle Royale officials distributed the benefits. After all, such an opportunity was hard to come by. During the event, due to the existence of the second event, the single players' accumulated emotions exploded. The festive decorations of the Mansion of the Dead made the Chishi Festival very romantic. However, some of the single players did not think so. To them, the Chishi Festival event had nothing to do with romance, but it was definitely a joyous event. The feeling of breaking up couples was both cruel and joyous. Many single players transformed into lone wolves under the moonlight, wandering around the land of Beiki, looking for couples of players. Even after completing their Chishi Festival mission, some of the overly single players still refused to stop and continued to look for other players who were in a relationship. They even made a provocative declaration in the event chat box. Not a single Magpie Bridge can be built tonight. They are all illegal buildings and must be demolished. We, the Single Dog Demolition Team, enforce the law impartially. We hope that all the couples who reek of love will realize their mistakes and stop showing off their love. Otherwise, we will find you even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground and demolish you cruelly. The couple players trembled in fear as they faced the players who had turned into single dogs. They could only hide from the players of the opposite sex to prevent the crazy single players from destroying the mission progress. Hence, the whole land of Bakey was playing a grand game of cat and mouse. When dawn arrived, the bell that signaled the end of the event rang throughout the land of Bakey. However, there were only a few players who could complete the couple mission and build the Magpie Bridge. After all, the group of single dogs who had turned into huskies was too big and too cruel. After the Chishi Festival event, the players' lives returned to normal. Lu Wu was observing the players' daily life through the artifact when his phone rang. There were only a handful of people who could get through to his phone. He picked up his phone and saw that it was Wu Guai who was calling, just as Lu Wu had expected. He picked up the phone and heard a familiar voice. "Brother Lu, did you miss me?" "Why would I miss an old man like you?" Lu Wu thought to himself, helplessly. However, he could not say it out loud. "Brother Wu, there must be something wrong, right? You wouldn't have called me if there wasn't anything important." "Haha, why can't I call you if I have nothing to do? But this time, I have something to discuss with you. I'm listening. Go ahead." "It's like this. Recently, the guild has been in need of soul coins for development. Life has been tough. Can you give me 10 million soul coins to support me so that I can speed up the development of the guild?" Lu Wu was speechless. "Haha, I'm just kidding." Wu Gui's laughter came again while Lu Wu was still in shock. "Even if you want it, you won't give it to me," Lu Wu said angrily. "Stingy, no wonder the players call you the stingiest dog official. You live up to your reputation. Let's talk business or I'll hang up." Don't. It's like this. Recently, Los Angeles, America is going to hold a world-class game exhibition called E3. I've received an invitation from the organizers, and they're willing to provide a gaming booth for Battle Online. So I'd like to ask for your opinion. Upon hearing this, Lu Wu could not help but be stunned. As the world's largest game exhibition, how could Lu Wu not have heard of it? He also had some understanding of E3. E3 was one of the 4 world-class game exhibitions. The games that were able to participate in E3 were basically the flagship games of every game manufacturer. Every year, when E3 was held, it was a grand gaming event for players around the world. It was also a promotional day that all game studios attached great importance to. Other game exhibitions of the same status included Tokyo's TGS, Cologne Game Exhibition, and the domestic CJ exhibition. However, compared to these game exhibitions, E3 was undoubtedly the most influential. The skyrocketing number of tourists in Los Angeles during this time of year was proof of this. In contrast, the domestic CJ exhibition had the weakest influence in the gaming circle. This was because at E3, the players were mainly looking at games. But at CJ Exhibition, the players were basically there to see cute girls cosplaying. Games were secondary. This had basically become the consensus among the players. Therefore, in terms of influence, E3 was undoubtedly the most influential. 2 years ago, to Lu Wu, attending E3 was simply unthinkable. This was because he was just the manager of a small gaming website with no traffic, and he could not produce any decent games. However, he did not expect to personally receive an invitation from the organizer. After a brief moment of surprise, Lu Wu was very calm. The main reason was that he was very indifferent to things in reality. Things that were out of his reach back then were no longer so desirable now. "Old Brother Wu, let's just forget about it. I'm not interested in these things," Lu Wu said after some thought. "Don't. A gaming event like this will attract gaming media from all over the world. It's a good opportunity to expand the influence of the game. Although Battle Royale is very popular now, there are still many players around the world who are sticking to their games and have not played Battle Royale. After all, there are too many games in this era. To continue to increase the number of players, it's not enough to rely on the quality of the game alone. Lu Wu listened and felt that what Wu Gui said was very reasonable. Now that Battle Royale had started, the next step was to slowly nibble away the number of players from other games and include them in Battle Royale. Just as Wu Gui said, Battle Royale was very popular now, but it was impossible to pull all the players into Battle Royale with the quality of the game alone. This was because watching a game video and experiencing it in person were two completely different concepts. Just like in the past, no matter how popular 3D games were, there were still many players who stuck to web-based games. No matter how bad the quality of the game was, with his overwhelming publicity, he could still make a lot of money every year. The importance of publicity could be seen from this. Of course, in comparison, the quality was the most important. When the quality was guaranteed, the conversion rate of publicity was very high. This was like the publicity of two games at the same time. If the quality of a game was very bad, each publicity could attract 1,000 players to download it, but many players would basically uninstall it after playing for a few minutes. In the end, only 10 players would be left to continue playing, which was a conversion rate of 1%. On the other hand, a good game, coupled with strong publicity, would have a very high conversion rate. As for the quality of Battle Online, Lu Wu did not need to prove it. The players of Battle Royale were already shouting the slogan, "The world's best." Coupled with the publicity, a conversion rate of less than 95% was a failure in Lu Wu's opinion. Even 100% was not a problem. This was because this game had all the advantages of other games, but also advantages that other games did not have. Fans of scenery, fans of hamsters, collectors, fans of grooming, and so on, all kinds of players could find happiness here. This game combined all the game modes at the current stage. Even players who did not like fighting could still find endless fun here. In addition to the 100% degree of realism and the physical enhancement brought by leveling up, it was not an exaggeration to say that the conversion rate was 100%. What Lu Wu needed now was a way for players who had not come into contact with Battle Online and were still playing other games to come into contact with this game. Therefore, publicity would definitely be a breakthrough. And E3 was such a platform for publicity of a premium game. As long as it could shine in E3, the name of Battle Online would once again resound in the gaming world. It seemed that Lu Wu was a little tempted. Moreover, the whistleblower at E3 had given Battle Online enough face by providing a game booth for them to use for free. This situation would never have happened in the past. In order to enter E3, many game manufacturers had to invest a lot of money in this area. Under normal circumstances, an internal game booth would cost $200 million PS. The current price is about $20 million. Inflation is temporarily set to $200 million after 300 years. However, this did not mean that they would be able to enter. The quality of the game was also a threshold. Therefore, the fact that they took the initiative to invite and provide a booth for free was enough to show how much importance the E3 organizers placed on Battle Online. After careful consideration, Lu Wu suddenly became interested. "Brother Wu, if that's the case, I agree. However, you'll have to contact the E3 organizers when the time comes. I won't be going." Wu Gui, who was on the other end of the phone, was speechless. "You're leaving such an important matter to me? Anyway, you're the only representative of Battle Online. It's the same if I leave it to you. When the time comes, I'll provide support for the game and will personally attend E3. As for other matters, I won't be involved." In Lu Wu's opinion, there were too many things to handle when contacting the E3 organizers. For example, booth planning, game figurines, game content introduction, and so on. These things were too complicated, and Lu Wu did not want to do it himself. It was perfect to leave it to Wu Gui, who had been operating Battle Online. "You said that I'm the person in charge of Battle Online, but I don't have any rights to the game. Wu Gui's resentful voice came from the other end of the phone. Ha ha ha, that's enough. Don't forget that when you were bullied in the game, I supported you with 100 soul coins and helped you get your revenge. Then how about I ask you for another 1,000,000 soul coins for support? Wu Gui quickly followed up on Lu Wu's topic. Ahem, the phone signal is not very good. Brother Wu, that's it. I'll hang up first. Lu Wu hung up without hesitation after he finished speaking. What a joke! 1,000,000 soul coins did not come out of thin air. Perhaps Wu Gui was really in need of soul coins. Compared to him, Lu Wu felt that he was in even more need of soul coins. Not to mention the soul coins that were consumed in each server's construction, updates, and activities. The Emperor's Mirror that he cultivated was also a soul coin burner. As for soul coins, Lu Wu had made up his mind to not let them flow out except in the game. After all, even when Lu was really poor, he only sold Yi Shui, or a few hundred soul coins. Now that he was not in need of money and could afford to raise little Bailey, Lu would never do something as silly as exchanging soul coins for cash. During the construction of Battle Online, Lu Wu's mentality was constantly changing. 2 years ago, when Battle Online had just started, Lu Wu was extremely happy when he exchanged soul coins for hundreds of thousands in cash. But now, cash was just a string of numbers in Lu Wu's eyes, while soul coins were an all-purpose currency. The difference in value was obvious. Chapter 536. After deciding to participate in the E3 gaming exhibition, Lu Wu began to pay attention to this aspect. At the same time, he began to work on the game showcase that he needed to provide to Wu Gui. Of course, Lu Wu still had absolute confidence in the quality of the game. It would not be a problem to amaze the world at E3. As for the specific production of the game showcase, Lu Wu decisively handed it over to the battle chief planner, Lil Bei Li. Lu Wu felt that he had gone further and further down the road of living off a woman, and there was no turning back. After all, he had such an all-round lowly who knew everything. Why would he need to do it himself? Even if he did it himself, he would not be able to do it as well as Lil Bailey. Therefore, wasn't it better to live off a woman? After handing over the task to Bailey, Lu Wu used the artifact to observe the idiotic lives of the players. At this stage, the development of the local server was relatively stable. Every day, the players attacked the Sea King and were attacked by the Sea King. However, the entire land of Baiki was still firmly in the hands of the local players. Compared to the other servers, their lives were very stable. In the European server, the war was coming to an end. After the demonic formation was destroyed, Yuan Chu's last reliance was destroyed. Although he had obtained the formation board of the demonic formation, he could not activate it. On the other hand, the strength of the European server players was getting stronger. In the beginning, they were suppressed, but now they had an absolute advantage. Basically, the destruction of Yuan Chu's forces was a foregone conclusion. Now, they were just struggling on their deathbed. In the Asian server, due to the deterrence of the Evil King when the server was first launched, the forces of the demonic spine region still did not dare to start a war with the players who lived in Blazing Sky City. Although they were always monitoring the players' every move, they did not dare to make any big moves. It was not that they were afraid of the players, but they were afraid of the god behind the players. However, after the end of the cross-server expedition 3 days ago, the Asia server players also discovered the huge gap between the overall combat power of their server and the other 3 servers. Speeding up the pace of becoming stronger had become the goal that all the Asia server players desired. They were ready to officially declare war on the other forces of the demonic spine region. This was because war was the best catalyst for their growth. The more they fought, the stronger they became. In the Naraka server, after the artificial intelligence AI co-officially joined the server and became an NPC, the entire Naraka player force developed rapidly. The players actively provided various aspects of knowledge and information to input into Eric's database. Then, Eric would research and create new weapons and equipment. With such a growth mode that was almost like cheating, the technology that the players in the Naraka server had grasped could be said to be advancing with each passing day. Moreover, the Naraka server was a unique server, and every player had to master a lot of knowledge. Basically, the players in the Naraka server could be considered half-scientists at this stage. When discussing mecha modification, new weapon development, and application, even players who knew nothing in the past could now add a word or two. Since the application of technology was closely related to all players, many players subconsciously began to understand this aspect of the content. The changes that Battle Royale brought to the players could be said to have extended from the gaming aspect to the spiritual aspect. The sense of fulfillment brought about by learning was also a major feature of Battle Royale. Of course, although the Naraka server was developing rapidly, the living environment was still very harsh. As the most dangerous region, Hell Beast hordes would occasionally erupt. Whenever that happened, wherever the beast hordes passed through, not a single blade of grass would grow. It was impossible for players to survive in such an environment. They could only grit their teeth and endure it. Once they respawned, they would continue to develop faster. For the players in the Naraka server, death was like having to eat and drink every day. They were already used to it. Now, the region that Luwu was most concerned about was the newly established Xianfeng region, which was also the non-server. This was because the non-server players' lives were really miserable. That kind of misery was enough to make Luwu laugh out loud even through the screen. If it was not for the fact that he could not hold it in, Luwu would not have laughed either. After all, these players would be his subordinates in the future. From the beginning, when they were surrounded at the respawn point, to being tortured by the Beast Addict tribe as a test subject, to the subsequent preparations to dig a tunnel, and so on, the misery of the non-server players was acknowledged by all players in the 4 major servers. But now, the non-server players finally had the opportunity to rise. This was because the battle group of the Beast Addict tribe no longer dared to set up camp at the foot of the Boundless Peak. The crisis was over, and the non-server players were faced with the endless wild monsters in the Eastern Thorn Forest, which meant endless soul coins and experience points. The great development of the non-server players began. However, during this period of time, the non-server players did not forget one thing, and that was to hunt down Chara. The reason why they were in such a miserable state was because of Chara. Now that the blockade of the Beast Addict tribe had finally been lifted, the non-server players naturally wanted to take revenge and punish Chara. Therefore, on the bounty board of the non-server players, Chara became the second bounty target with a value of 5,000 soul coins. As for the first bounty target, it fell on Crayon Shinchan's head without any exception. At the most miserable stage for the non-server players, Crayon Shinchan, who had gone all out to attract aggro, was hated by all the non-server players. To the non-server players, this kind of continuous mental blow was even more detestable than Chara. For this reason, the non-server players collectively raised 50,000 soul coins and put Crayon Shinchan on the bounty list. This bounty was included in the overall bounty list, which increased Crayon Shinchan's value once again. Naturally, Crayon Shinchan was not surprised by the non-server players' behavior. He even specially went to the non-server forum to properly thank the non-server players for their enthusiasm and made countless enemies again. Of course, although he was not surprised, Crayon Shinchan was deeply troubled by the increase in the bounty. This was because the increasing bounty also meant that the day of being punished by his own mother was getting closer. However, it was impossible not to act recklessly. How could one be happy if one did not attack others? As the number 1 anti-hero in the battle, Mo Xiaoxin was gradually moving further and further away on the path of seeking death. He was unable to extricate himself and did not want to extricate himself. His current mentality was to muddle along. Every day that he could be happy was one day. Every day that he could be angry was one day that he could cry. The non-server players could only feel helpless against Crayon Shinchan, who could not find the true identity of the non-server players. They could only hope that the non-server players would work harder and punish the anti-hero as soon as possible so that he could be killed and quit the server. However, for Chara, there was no need for support for the matter at his doorstep. During the period when the blockade was lifted, apart from killing monsters and leveling up in the eastern part of the Thorn Forest, searching for Chara had also become the consensus of the non-server players. Due to Chara's strong individual ability, it was impossible for a single person or even a small team to punish him. For this reason, the non-server players developed a targeted battle plan. That was to report his location. As long as a player found traces of Chara, he would immediately report Chara's coordinates in the regional channel. By then, all the non-server players in the area would receive Chara's coordinates and then collectively surround and kill him. This method was really effective. With the cooperation of the major guilds and groups of players, Chara was besieged several times and was almost killed. However, what made the non-server players grit their teeth was that the agile Chara could always escape at the critical moment. They tried this several times, but all of them failed without exception. However, the non-server players' desire to surround and kill Chara did not decrease. Instead, it grew stronger. They all swore on the forum that they would rather not have Chara, the wall-level player, locked in the safe zone so that he could never leave. As the instigator of the non-server tragedy, Chara was currently crawling in a sea of blue flowers in the eastern part of the Thorn Forest. His body was moving up and down violently, panting heavily and sweating profusely. Just a moment ago, he had experienced another round of attacks from non-server players. This time, it was more dangerous than the previous few times. The groups of players organized by several major guilds formed layers of encirclement, and he almost couldn't get out. Fortunately, he managed to escape with only a sliver of his HP and did not return to the safe zone. If he had died and returned to the safe zone, Chara knew how terrible his fate would be with the Great Demon King as an example. Over the past 2 days, Chara also understood how terrible his current situation was after Jack's narration. It could be said that he had made countless enemies and had become an existence that everyone in the non-server wanted to kill. At this time, Chara also began to use the forum function. This was because the forum not only allowed him to understand a large amount of information about the game, but it also helped him discover the dynamic information of the players who wanted to punish him. The previous few times, he had relied on the sharing of his coordinates by the players on the forum to avoid being besieged. However, he did not expect that he would almost die this time. It was obvious that the players who were hunting him down had realized the hidden dangers in the forum and had probably set up a private group to hunt him down. This gave Chara a huge headache, and he felt that his future days in the non-server would not be easy. After a short rest, when his HP had slowly recovered, Chara's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He immediately opened the competition menu and chose to be matched with an opponent. In terms of individual competitions, Chara would participate every day, and he would fight more than 15 matches every day. As the opponents became stronger, Chara could enjoy every battle to his heart's content. Until now, he had won 328 matches in a row. Under the state of consecutive victories, his competition points increased rapidly, and Chara had now broken through 10,000 points, becoming the first King Division player in the non-server. P.S. In individual competitions, consecutive victories will give additional points. Under consecutive victories, victory points will accumulate and increase, and under consecutive defeats, the deduction of competition points will also increase. In the case of a draw, there will be an additional consolation point bonus of 1 point for each match, and consecutive draws will be equivalent to the accumulated points gained from consecutive victories. This time, his opponent would be Chara's first competition in the King Division. When Chara pressed the Opponent Match button, a game notification suddenly appeared. Game notification. You have reached the King Division of your server and have qualified for the full server individual competition. 3 days. Do you wish to be matched with an opponent from another server? Chara could not help but be stunned by this notification, and then excitement appeared on her face. He had always heard that the hacks in the other servers were extremely strong, but he had never seen them for himself. However, this time he could personally fight against one. Thinking of this, Chara pressed the full server match button without hesitation. Instantly, the countdown for the match began. At the same time that Chara entered the match, the server announcement rang. Server announcement. The first King Division player of this server has entered the cross-server match mode. Players can enter room 001 of the arena to watch the match and cheer for the players from your server. On Chara's side, after waiting for less than a minute, the notification that his opponent had been successfully matched appeared. Game notification. Cross-server match successful. The matched opponent is the Beiki player, Yuan Fong. Battle record. 0 wins, 0 losses, 564 draws consecutive. What kind of godly opponent is this? Chara was dumbfounded when he saw the opponent's battle record. Chapter 537. This was the first cross-server battle between the non-server players, so it naturally attracted the attention of a large number of non-server players. After the server announcement, a large number of non-server players opened the tournament menu and began to enter the tournament room 001 as indicated in the announcement. Of course, they were not there to cheer for Chara, but to observe how strong the wall-level players from other servers were. If possible, they also hoped to see the moment when Chara was severely punished. Chara was still in a state of confusion as the countdown for entering the arena rang. 564 consecutive draws were unbelievable to him, and he could not understand how this player called Yuan Fong managed to do it. When the countdown for entering the arena ended, a game notification appeared. Game notification. Entering the arena. Random location. Floating Sky City. As the game notification appeared, the scenery in Chara's area began to change. His line of sight pierced through the thick layers of clouds, and a floating island bathed in golden light came into view. His line of sight suddenly descended, and he arrived at the central area of a floating island. The figure of his opponent, Yuan Fong, also slowly appeared in the central area 100 meters away. Game notification. Individual battle countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7. During the countdown, the central light screen that separated the two slowly faded. Understanding that the battle was about to begin, Chara's expression became extremely solemn, and he slowly crouched on the ground, ready for battle. Although he did not understand how this player called Yuan Fong could achieve a record of 564 consecutive draws, this person was able to reach the King Division, so his strength should not be underestimated. Facing a strong opponent, Chara's inner desire to fight burned. When the light screen officially faded, Chara's sharp gaze immediately turned to his opponent. However, what surprised him was that his opponent, Yuan Fong, was sitting cross-legged on the ground, looking at him with a bored expression. He could not see any desire to fight from Yuan Fong, and Ancestral Leopard's beast perception could not detect any intention of attacking from Yuan Fong. To Chara, Yuan Fong's behavior was simply a provocation, entering the individual battle arena without any desire to fight. Then why did you come in? Thinking of this, Chara let out a low roar, and his body suddenly sprinted toward Yuan Fong, his fingernails turning purple at this moment. This attack was aimed directly at Yuan Fong's neck. Right at this moment, Yuan Fong's eyes actually lit up with anticipation. In fact, Yuan Fong did not have much desire to participate in the solo tournament. If it were not for Gu Yu's request for him to increase his ranking and help his guild occupy one of the top few spots, he would not have participated in the solo tournament at all. For other players, the individual competition represented the sparring of combat techniques and battles to their heart's content. However, for Yuan Fong, the individual competition would only last for 20 minutes until it was determined to be a draw. After all, the Beiki players were very familiar with his abilities. They also knew that as long as they did not make a move, the bald monk would not be able to do anything to them. A draw would be the best outcome. At the current stage, Yuan Fong had another nickname in Beiki, which was 50-50, which meant that he could fight evenly with anyone. After all, no one could beat him, and he couldn't beat anyone. As a result, a group of idiotic players emerged. They claimed on the forum that they could fight evenly with players of the king tier. Of course, this was only limited to Yuan Fong, because meeting Yuan Fong meant that this round would definitely end in a draw. There were no exceptions. Because of this, Yuan Fong was very helpless. Now he habitually sat cross-legged after entering the solo tournament and talked about life with his opponent for 20 minutes. Finally, he shook hands and left the arena. This time, it was also Yuan Fong's first cross-server match. Seeing Chara take the initiative to attack, Yuan Fong almost shouted out in excitement. Finally, he could win a round. Buddha bless me. Chara's deadly claws that were swinging down were beautiful in Yuan Fong's eyes. He immediately raised his head with a blissful expression, exposing his weak point, his neck. He was prepared to let Chara's attack deal more damage. Only then would it be more painful when the damage was reflected. The first victory was coming. However, just as Chara's claws were about to hit Yuan Fong's neck, he suddenly twisted his body and forcefully changed the direction of his attack, causing his claws to miss. As his body twisted under the inertia, Chara tapped the ground with the tip of his toes and retreated a few meters. Seeing this, Yuan Fong's expression was blank. What's going on? Not far away, Chara was shocked. Just as the claws were about to hit Yuan Fong, wild beast perception kept warning him of danger, as if this attack would bring him terrible consequences. Chara did not doubt his wild beast perception at all, because this was a natural ability that came from practicing beast techniques since young. He had an extremely sharp perception of danger. That was why he did not hesitate to stop his attack and retreat. Looking at the dazed and seemingly silly Yuan Fong, Chara's expression darkened. From Chara's point of view, Yuan Fong's harmless appearance was obviously a disguise. How could he be weak if he could become the strongest player in the challenger division? Why did you stop? Yuan Fong, who was eager to be beaten up, could not help but ask. Chara did not answer. His sharp eyes stared straight at Yuan Fong, and he began to circle around Yuan Fong, looking for an opportunity to attack. However, the more he looked, the more depressed Chara became, because this guy was full of openings, as if every part of him was a fatal weakness. After a few minutes of stalemate, Chara finally could not take it anymore. With a low roar, he pounced at Yuan Fong again. Seeing this scene, Yuan Fong shuddered. The first victory was coming. Happy! This time, Chara's attack was aimed at Yuan Fong's heart. However, just as his sharp claws were about to hit Yuan Fong, Chara suddenly forcefully changed the direction of his attack again, and he retreated a few meters. A strong sense of danger made Chara feel that if he attacked, he would very likely be hit by Yuan Fong's fierce counterattack. This counterattack could even be fatal. Looking at Chara, who retreated a few meters again, Yuan Fong was dumbfounded. What the F***CK do you mean? Are you going to attack or not? You came here to show off and then retreat. Are you trying to bully me because it doesn't hurt? This is so F***king infuriating. The first victory disappeared again. Yuan Fong looked constipated. At the same time, Chara, who retreated a few meters again, kept thinking about where Yuan Fong's attack would have come from if he had hit him. Left side, right side, hands, or feet. Looking at Yuan Fong, Chara fell into deep thought. The atmosphere was once again in a stalemate. Seeing this, Yuan Fong could not help but wave his hand. All right, sit down and have a chat. 20 minutes will be up soon. Hearing this, Chara still did not reply. He continued to circle around Yuan Fong, thinking of a way to defeat his enemy. Yuan Fong simply sat down cross-legged and looked at Chara, who was circling around him, with a bored expression. He felt that this guy was sick in the head. Two feints, how boring. Meanwhile, the spectating non-server players in 001 Arena were also dumbfounded. Until now, they still could not understand what Chara was doing. Moreover, The two attacks just now were completely different from Chara's previous battle style. Many non-server players had watched Chara's battle videos, and they knew very well how wild and fierce Chara's battle style was. Basically, he relied on his powerful explosive power and battle techniques to kill his opponent within a short period of time. This was the first time such a situation had happened. Time passed bit by bit, and now there were less than 10 minutes left. Chara still could not think of where Yuan Fong would attack him if he hit him. Yuan Fong, who seemed to be full of flaws, was also full of danger in Chara's eyes. Almsgiver, are you tired? Looking at Chara, who was circling around him, Yuan Fong could not help but ask, "Roar." Chara's sharp gaze stared straight into Yuan Fong's eyes, and he let out a low roar. "All right, continue circling." Yuan Fong waved his hand disinterestedly. He felt that this guy was impossible to chat with. At this moment, there was another thing that made Chara very confused. If he did not attack, why did Yuan Fong not attack as well? He could not understand this, no matter how hard he tried. Time quickly entered the end of the last 5 minutes. At this moment, Chara finally could not hold it in anymore. No matter what, he had to try to hit Yuan Fong. How could he be satisfied if he did not try? Accompanied by the roar of a beast, Chara's figure ran toward Yuan Fong like a cheetah. Meanwhile, Yuan Fong continued to look at Chara expressionlessly. He felt that this guy was going to faint again and would definitely not dare to hit him. Therefore, while Yuan Fong was stunned, this claw slapped hard on his face, and Yuan Fong, who was caught off guard, was instantly sent flying. At that moment, Yuan Fong was both happy and depressed. This B** star dared to hit my face without saying a word. Even my master and brothers don't hit faces. I'm so angry, this is too much. On Chara's side, the sound of his hand breaking could be heard. Battle notification. Attack caused a weak point critical hit damage of 387 points. Target avoided weak point critical hit damage of 387 points. Damage caused 0. Battle notification. Target Yuan Fong received damage. MO cause infinite activated. Level 2 damage reflection 20%. Damage received 77. For after this attack, Chara was also sent flying. At the same time, the power that was directly reflected on his arm instantly caused his hand to break. For Chara, who was only at level 34, this attack had taken away nearly 1/3 of his HP, which gave Chara a shock. At this moment, Chara finally understood why every time he approached Yuan Fong, beast perception would give him a warning of danger. Because his beast perception was not wrong, Yuan Fong's entire body was filled with a dangerous aura. Roar! Chara turned over and leaped up, turning his head to stare angrily at Yuan Fong. The injury instantly stimulated the violent beast in Chara's body. His crimson red eyes were filled with aggression as if he was about to devour someone. At this moment, Yuan Fong also stood up. He rubbed his cheek. Although he did not receive any damage, it was painful. People who slapped faces were the worst. At this moment, Chara's figure flashed and once again pounced toward Yuan Fong. There was less than a minute left. At this moment, Chara's injured arm was surrounded by lightning. When he swung it, it was like a lightning whip, ruthlessly lashing toward Yuan Fong. This attack was the strongest attack that Chara had comprehended at this stage among the beast techniques that he had cultivated in reality, the Thunder Coffin. The totem of the ancestral leopard appeared on his chest as if it had come alive. It roared and pounced toward Yuan Fong. At this moment, Chara wanted to use this strongest attack to break Yuan Fong's defense, devour him and kill him. Almsgiver, Lord Buddha bless you! Seeing this, Yuan Fong put his palms together and looked at Chara. The moment the Thunder Whip and the ancestral leopard's totem hit Yuan Fong at the same time, the time limit of this battle had finally come to an end. Although this attack was very strong, Chara, whose attributes were not high at this stage, still could not break through Yuan Fong's fixed 800 points of defense. In an instant, Mo's Infinite's counterattack caused his body to crack and turn into a black fog. Game notification. The cross-server battle has ended. The winner is the Beiki player, Yuan Fong. Seeing this scene, the non-server players were in an uproar. As for Yuan Fong, there weren't many players who knew much about him, as he was too unknown. Therefore, they were shocked to see Yuan Fong defeat Chara without making a move from the beginning to the end. On the other hand, Yuan Fong was also smiling. His first victory had finally come. I like this kind of hot-headed opponent. Happy. Chapter 538. The first cross-server battle of the non-server was also Chara's first cross-server battle. However, many people did not expect it to end in such a way. The situation that seemed inevitable to the local players caused an uproar in the non-server. The fact that Yuan Fong was able to defeat Chara without making a move made the non-server players feel envious. Hence, a large number of non-server players began to seek advice from the local server, even requesting to learn this skill. The local players' responses were very uniform. What a load of bullshit! How could the local players not be envious of Yuan Fong's ability? After all, this was a supernatural ability, the same level as the Prajna scarification of hell. The players had been wanting to learn it for a long time. There was even a section in the forum dedicated to studying how to learn the Prajna scarification of hell. Some players spent all day discussing how to comprehend this supernatural ability. However, until now, there were only 2 people who had mastered the Prajna scarification of hell in the whole of Beiki. One was Yuan Fong, and the other was Qiu Qiu. The players had never seen Qiu Qiu's ability, but from Yuan Fong, it was obvious that the Prajna scarification of the same level that Qiu Qiu had mastered was extremely powerful. It was a powerful ability that could directly make a mediocre player reach the top of the cheat class. Hence, wanting to learn it was one thing, but mastering it was another matter entirely. The non-server players' consultation was ridiculous in the eyes of the Beiki players. After all, they did not even know how to start, so how could they teach others? However, this still could not suppress the desire of the non-server players to become stronger. The enthusiasm of the non-server players to become stronger was extremely high. After seeing the strength and excitement of the other servers, they yearned to reach this level one day. They even wanted to catch up from behind and win the first place in the future cross-server battles of major regions. As the overlord of the forum, Crayon Shinchan naturally fiercely refuted the non-server players' comments on the local server forum. He once again attracted a wave of hatred and angered the non-server players so much that they added another sum of money to the bounty column. Although the local players did not think that the non-server players could surpass them, they also felt a sense of urgency. The European server, Hell server, and Asia server were all developing at an accelerated pace. In this bizarre game world where opportunities were everywhere, no one could say for sure who would be the first in the future. This was just like the Sea King. Every time he turned around, his strength and subordinates would increase greatly. Such opportunities existed for the players as well. With the arrival of the cross-server war, the original players also realized that they had to speed up their development. According to what Crayon Shinchan said in the forum, as a father, he had to be a father for life. How could he be a son and a father at the same time? We have to be the father from beginning to end. That is the real father. Crayon Shinchan's remarks were naturally condemned by the players on the forums of other servers. However, in the original server, although everyone was gnashing their teeth at this guy, his words struck a chord in the hearts of all the original players. They all agreed with his theory of being a father for a lifetime. South of Beiki, the Arctic Abyss. This area was covered in ice and snow all year round, blocking the players' access to the other large region in the south. But at this moment, the ice that had not melted for 10,000 years was melting at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the Ice Snow Clan's territory within the Arctic Abyss, the glaciers had melted on a large scale, and the buildings that were once made of ice had long since disappeared. Perhaps Tonghua and the Rock Ghost King did not know, The formation that they had set up according to the method described by Talisman Bao would have such a huge impact on the Arctic abyss. How could a god-level body be so easily neutralized? After the melting formation was set up, the ice attribute's spiritual energy in the entire Arctic abyss was absorbed in large amounts. Later on, when Lu Wu used his soul power to activate the melting formation to accelerate the destruction of Talisman Bao's godly body, he accelerated the loss of ice attribute spiritual energy in the Arctic abyss. Until now, the Arctic abyss that had lost a large amount of ice attribute spiritual energy could no longer maintain its extreme cold attribute. The temperature warmed up, the glaciers melted, and the falling snowflakes in the sky disappeared. At the same time as the glaciers in the Arctic abyss melted, the heat in the air of the land of Beiki was absorbed, causing the temperature of Beiki to plummet. Naturally, the players noticed this as well. Although the cold weather did not affect the players who had strong physiques, such an abnormal situation aroused the curiosity of the players. The theory of natural disasters appeared in the forum once again. There was always a group of players who liked to stir up public opinion. They started a rumor in the forum that the new expansion pack, the Frozen Throne, was about to appear, and that an ice attribute natural disaster army was quietly approaching. They asked the players to be prepared to defend. The idiotic players were always talented in making up stories. They made it sound so logical that it seemed like it was true. Of course, there were not many players who believed it. After all, natural disasters in Beiki had never appeared since the great Devil King, who he left. Other than the optimism of the Beiki players, it was probably because of the newly added weather adjustment system in Battle Royale. While the players were discussing about the weather, the Arctic abyss was deep underground in the area that the players were never willing to set foot in. Under the 1,000-meter-thick ice layer, an army that had been sealed for countless years was quietly awakening. The ice and snow melted, turning into water that flowed down the iceberg. The moment the ice seal isolation barrier outside the Ice Snow Clan's territory was broken, the consciousness of the ice ghosts deep underground was finally awakened. Broken armors, broken weapons, broken bodies, the endless years of slumber made them temporarily forget who they were and what the meaning of their existence was. In the process of awakening, ancient memories came one after another. It was the lost glory of the Ice Ghost Clan, something that was engraved in their hearts from the moment they were born, something that they protected with their lives. They originally belonged to the land of Beiki and were loyal to the powerful Beiki divine clan. They were also the sharpest spear and the strongest shield of the Ice Snow Clan. They fought for the Beiki divine clan and the Ice Snow Clan without any regrets. Roar! When the last memory emerged, the Ice Ghost Clan warriors, buried deep underground, struggled madly and let out angry roars. They abandoned us. It was the betrayal of the Beiki Divine Clan and the Ice Snow Clan. We fought for them with our lives, but they imprisoned us here. The warriors' glory was covered by years of heavy snow, and their fighting will was sealed by the solid ice layer. We were abandoned. Without glory and fighting will, we lost everything. We no longer had a goal to fight for. We were just like puppets. The sealed memories were peeled off like silk cocoons, slowly unraveling. Anger and hatred came one after another. At this moment, the Ice Ghost Clan remembered the past, the lost glory, and the fact that the master they had protected so loyally had abandoned them. Since we have lost the goal to fight for, at this moment we only want revenge. Kill the Beiki Divine Clan and the Ice Snow Clan who once made us proud. Our rotten bodies will be reborn in their blood. An army of zombies that belonged to ancient times had officially awakened at this moment. This was a dusty history that even Tonghua and the Rock Ghost King did not understand. It was too old, so old that no one in the land of Beiki could remember their existence. No one knew the glory they carried and the bravery they had during the battle. During their most glorious years, they still had a name. The Heaven-Defying Alliance, Ice Ghost Battle Group. Chapter 539. Beiki Arctic Abyss. After a few days of searching, the players finally discovered the source of the cold current that caused the temperature of Bakey to plummet. At this moment, the players rushed to the Arctic snow mountain where the ice and snow were melting, wanting to find out. The curiosity of the Bakey players could be said to be completely cultivated in the game, not innate. Ever since the dog fell into the pit and obtained the inheritance, the curiosity of the Bakey players toward the unknown had become extremely strong. In the end, it was because there might be opportunities in the unknown. Fortuitous encounters were very mysterious. Some players jumped into the pit and jumped off the cliff as soon as they saw it, but they did not get any opportunities even after repeated efforts. Some players did not have such thoughts at all, but they inadvertently got a great opportunity. However, taking the initiative to try was always more reliable than waiting for luck to come. Therefore, this time, the special changes in the Arctic abyss attracted a large number of players. The players all wanted to find a chance to rise in this change. If possible, they also wanted to be a cheat. At this time, the temperature in the Arctic abyss was not as cold as it used to be. Although the cold wind was still blowing, it did not affect the players at all, so they did not need to buy cold protection items in the shop. This area, which was originally sparsely populated, was now filled with players in groups. At this time, almost a quarter of the Arctic snow mountain had melted, and there were potholes everywhere. There were even some places with so much water that the players had to swim. Even so, it still could not stop the players' desire for opportunities. During the search, a large number of players came to the land that once belonged to the Ice Snow clan. Due to the loss of spiritual energy, the enchantment of the Ice Snow clan's land was broken, and the players easily entered. When the first group of players entered the Ice Snow clan's land, they were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. At this time, the Ice Snow clan's land had turned into a lake, and there were many corpses floating above the icy blue lake. The scene was horrifying. The owners of these corpses were all frozen by the Ice Snow clan on the cliff behind the mountain because they trespassed the Ice Snow clan's land without permission, including the remaining cursed disciples. Now that the ice and snow had melted, they were finally freed from the ice. Many players did not know the history of this place, so they were shocked when they saw the scene. At this time, a corpse slowly approached the shore where the players were under the cold wind. One of the players mustered up the courage to poke the corpse with his sword. At that moment, he noticed a smear of red on the corpse's wrist. Lava bracelet, purple quality, broken. Item introduction. A purple quality bracelet made by Bakey's craftsman, Faming. It has been infused with geocentric fire, giving the wearer an extremely high resistance to cold. Item special effect. Earth core fire, passive protection skill, lava strike, active. When launching a melee attack against a target, the user can mobilize the power of lava to deal additional fire damage to the target. When the player saw the analysis attributes, he jumped into the water without hesitation and hugged the corpse tightly. He turned to the players on the shore with a vigilant look and said, "Don't worry, I'll kill you." "Mine." As he spoke, the player hurriedly took out the lava bracelet from the corpse's wrist and threw it into the channel. Many of the players were dumbfounded. After a brief silence, the players jumped into the water and pounced on the unfrozen corpses. They wanted to make some money from the dead. At first, they did not understand what was going on with the player. However, when they saw the player take off the red bracelet, the players on the shore understood why he was so vigilant while hugging the corpse. Hence, the land of the Ice Snow clan, which had now turned into a lake, started a battle for the corpses among the players. Every one of them shouted, "Mine, it's all mine," as they hugged the rotting corpses tightly. The scene was extremely chaotic. When the players who arrived later saw the scene, they were dumbfounded. However, when they realized that the corpses were equipped with exquisite equipment, they jumped into the lake without hesitation and joined the battle for the corpses. Although some of the corpses were already rotten, the players' desire for profit had completely overcome their fear. Most importantly, after playing battle for so long, the players had developed a strong immunity to creatures like corpses and ghosts. Now, Even the healer players were not afraid of such creatures. Each of them waved their staffs and other long-range weapons, fighting for the corpses. The cute players who claimed that they could not even open a bottle cap in real life were now so ferocious that they looked as if they could twist someone's skull off. They hugged the corpses and would not let go of them even if they were beaten to death. Anyone who dared to snatch the corpses would be hammered with their staffs. As more and more players joined the battle for the corpses floating on the surface of the lake were quickly swept away. This undoubtedly made many of the players who came later feel extremely depressed. They felt that they had lost an opportunity that they were so close to getting. This group of players who were unwilling to give up turned their attention to the bottom of the lake. The players guessed that the temperature had warmed and the ice and snow had melted, causing the corpses that were originally buried in the ice to float to the surface after thawing. Therefore, there must be another opportunity under the ice. With that thought in mind, a large number of players dived into the water and began to knock on the ice that had yet to melt. Apart from little Pomelo, Murphy, and Seven Mings, no other players had ever come here. Naturally, they did not know that these corpses actually came from the ice cliff and not the underground. They also did not know that their guess was wrong from the beginning. Therefore, a large number of players bought tools such as shovels and began the ice-breaking operation. By a freak combination of factors, the players' actions hastened the birth of the Ice School clan. With the spirit of not giving up until they dug out the treasure, the players were full of energy and did not feel tired at all. With the hard work of a large number of players, the ice layer was continuously destroyed. For a whole night, the number of players in the Arctic abyss did not decrease. Instead, more players came after hearing the news. Following the herd mentality, the players who came later felt that since there were so many players digging the ice, there must be a treasure underneath, and they wanted to dig for it too. Therefore, the number of ice-digging players increased. Apart from the first group of players who knew that they were digging for corpses, the rest of the players had no idea what was underneath. However, they were still working hard and just followed the players. However, after a whole night of hard work, many players finally got tired of it, especially the players who came earlier. They felt that there must be no more corpses after digging so deep and there was still no treasure. At this moment, a crack suddenly appeared on the ice layer below. A faint blue light shone through the crack and rippled beautifully in the water. At the same time that the crack appeared, a whirlpool appeared at the bottom of the water, and a large amount of snow water was sucked into it. At this moment, a player's exclamation sounded in the regional channel. "Look, corpses! They're all corpses!" The players who heard the exclamation immediately looked down. Through the whirlpool, they saw the scene inside. It turned out that there was actually a huge space under this layer of ice. Inside, there are countless warriors with rotten bodies, wearing broken armor and holding rusty weapons. What the F***CK? They really dug it out. There's so many of them. We're rich. Squad members, go F***King snatch it. Seeing this scene, the players did not feel afraid. Instead, they seemed very excited, because this was the treasure they wanted to dig out. In the previous wave, many players had looted the best equipment from the corpses. Therefore, seeing the Ice School clan fighting under the ice layer, the players rushed over without hesitation. At this moment, countless Ice School warriors opened their eyes. Their dark blue, cold eyes looked the players who were swimming toward them. The leader of the Ice School tribe raised the frost sword in his hand and swung it forward. Suddenly, the lake water flowed backward and soared into the sky. The players were also blasted into the sky by this force. At this moment, the entire lake surface was like a volcanic eruption. A large amount of lake water was sprayed into the sky and scattered around like rain. In a moment, the lake's surface formed by the melted snow water was hollowed out and slid toward both sides of the iceberg. The entire lake inside the Arctic abyss disappeared. This force was too huge. It caught the players off guard and they were unable to resist it. After their strength weakened, they fell from the sky one by one and fell hard to the ground. On the spot, a few fragile players turned into black fog and died. Just when the players were surprised by this, an ancient army that seemed to be broken came out of the huge crack, marching in neat steps. The leader of the Ice School clan, Icy Cold, looked around with lifeless eyes. He was very familiar with this area because it originally belonged to the Ice School clan. It was the territory given to them by the Bakey Celestial clan. They also thrived here, inherited the glory of their ancestors, and continued to fight for the Bakey Celestial clan and the Ice Snow clan. Taking a deep breath and feeling the thin ice attribute spiritual power in the air, Icy Cold's face was as calm as an ancient well, but the anger in his heart was ignited again. This meant that their clan land had disappeared. Just like the Ice School clan that had been frozen for countless years, they were forgotten by this world. After a brief silence, Icy Cold slowly raised the frost sword in his hand and knelt on one knee. Suddenly, the Ice School warriors behind him all knelt on one knee. Under the leadership of Icy Cold, all the Ice School warriors murmured and paid tribute to their deceased ancestors. With the help of the artifact, the players clearly understood what Icy Cold and his clan were talking about. However, the players did not understand whether the Ice School clan was an enemy or a friend. If it was a natural disaster, it did not seem like it. That was because all natural disasters had a common characteristic, which was that they attacked regardless of good or evil. Whether it was the evil invasion or the descent of death in the void ocean, they were all creatures of the disorderly evil alignment. These creatures seemed to have no consciousness, and their minds were full of killing and devouring. Therefore, seeing the Ice School clan's behavior, the players were very curious. At the same time, they were also a little worried, not knowing if this force that was dug out would be harmful to Bakey. The glorious battle robe of our ancestors has been destroyed by our former master. From now on, we, the Ice School warriors, will wear the bright red battle robe of revenge and fight against the Bakey Celestial clan and the Ice Snow clan. After saying this, Icy Cold stood up and looked at the players scattered around with his icy blue eyes. At this time, the players were also looking at Icy Cold and activated their analysis ability. Icy Cold, Divine State, Third Order. Character Introduction. The ancient Bakey Celestial clan created the land of Bakey in a territory eroded by extreme cold and used their divine power to sprinkle vitality in this territory. After that, 3 clans were born in the land of Bakey, one of which was the Ice School clan. Under the cultivation of the ancient Bakey Celestial clan, the Ice School clan developed rapidly and devoted themselves to the Bakey Celestial clan and the direct descendants of the Bakey Celestial clan, the Ice Snow clan. Icy Cold was the last leader of the Ice School clan. After inheriting the glory of his ancestors, he led the Ice School clan to join the Heaven-Defying Alliance and establish the Ice Ghost Legion, continuing to sweep away all obstacles for the Bakey Celestial clan. Character status: God's blood seal, 4 stripes. Once slaughtered the gods of the heaven realm and carved their blood as glory on his back. Each stripe represents that he has killed a god of the heaven realm. Although he suffered the pain of being corroded by the god's blood for Icy Cold, it was a source of pride and glory. Broken body. Before being sealed, his divine power was drained and his divine body was incomplete. At this moment, his strength is only at the demigod level. Divine power recovery. Contained the divine power seal in his body has not been broken, so his divine power cannot be recovered. When the players saw Icy Cold's attributes, they were dumbfounded. A godly state master. Even though Icy Cold's current strength was only at the demigod level, to the players, he was still a super big boss that was not to be trifled with. As their understanding of the game deepened, the players already knew the specific strength levels of this game. This was because, regardless of whether it was the land of the 9 luminaries or the sea, the strength levels of other forces were divided into Ghost Soldier, Ghost Commander, Ghost General, Ghost King, Ghost Emperor, Demigod, and God. God level was already the strongest combat power that the players knew of at this stage. Moreover, this was only their understanding. Apart from the demonic god that they met at the beginning of the game, they had never seen any other god-level masters. Hence, They had no idea how strong they were. However, just by looking at the strength of the demonic god who could destroy heaven and earth and Tao the hammer, one could tell that the combat power of a god-level master was something that the players could not handle at all. Hence, when the players saw the introduction of Icy Cold's interface, they immediately felt that something bad was about to happen. Many players had already quietly spread the news in the regional channel, the guild channel, and even the forum. Brothers, I have bad news. We dug out a big treasure in the Arctic abyss. You must be mentally prepared. Guild Master, I made a mistake, but don't be afraid. There are many people who made mistakes this time. As the saying goes, the law does not punish the masses. I don't think I will be hunted down. But I still want to ask, if I am hunted down, will you protect me? Weak eyes. I don't want to be the great demon king. Wailing. Actually, what the players at the scene did not know was that even if they did not dig, the Ice Ghost clan would still appear under the broken barrier. However, at this moment, the players at the scene thought that it was their fault. They were the ones who dug out this unbeatable big boss. Sad, weak, sad. They hugged themselves tightly and trembled. Looking at Icy Cold's cold eyes, the players did not know if he would go crazy and destroy the whole of Bakey. Thinking of this, the scene of the Mansion of the Dead being destroyed and them being driven out of Bakey appeared in the minds of many players. A few players with weak hearts were in despair. Chapter 540. After a long period of silence, the Ice Ghost Legion, led by Icy Cold, had finally appeared. This also alerted Lu Wu, who had been observing the players from behind the scenes. Icy Cold, the leader of the Legion, had the strength of a godly realm warrior. Among his subordinates, the weakest was at the peak of the Ghost King realm, and they only took up less than 1/10 of the Ice Ghost Legion. Lu Wu knew very well what this meant. If Icy Cold was hostile, he could easily wipe out Bakey, and the players would be defenseless, because this was a legion of the heaven-defying alliance that had slaughtered the gods of the heaven realm. The strength of the players could be said to be on a completely different level. Lu Wu was also very helpless about this. If it was a normal game version update, the opponents that the players encountered in the development process would inevitably appear from weak to strong and steadily develop step by step. Certainly, there would not be a force that the players were completely powerless against in the beginning. However, in a game like Battle, this was something that could not be controlled. Because this was a game with the real world as its background, all uncertain factors could appear and exist. Even if Lu Wu was the actual controller of the battle artifact and the game, he could not interfere and influence this, because he was only the controller of the battle artifact and the players, not the controller of this underworld. What Lu Wu could do was to help the players choose a relatively easy place to start. The rest depended on the players' own efforts, and he could only help the players grow behind the scenes. Therefore, Icy Cold's appearance this time gave Lu Wu a huge headache. At this stage, the strongest combat power among his subordinates was the Evil King. However, to let the Evil King fight against Icy Cold was obviously like throwing an egg against a rock. Although the Evil King had inherited the evil demon god's godly seal and the power of law, he had reached the demigod realm and had the power to rival the gods. However, Icy Cold was also extremely powerful. He was a true god-slayer who had personally killed 4 gods of the heaven realm. In addition, Icy Cold controlled an equally terrifying Ice Ghost Legion. This time, even if Lu Wu sent out the Evil King, it would be useless. Lu Wu had also asked Lil Bei Li about this. Lil Bei Li's answer was that if they fought, the Evil King would definitely lose. Under such circumstances, Icy Cold's attitude toward the players was particularly important. If he was hostile to the players, then the Bakey players would have a hard time. At this moment, Lu Wu was observing Icy Cold through the artifact. He wanted to know the purpose of this ancient general who had been sealed for a long time. He scanned the players around him. Freezing Cold was certain that these creatures had never existed in the land of Bakey. His gaze gradually turned from sharp to cold. This should not be the enemy of the Ice Ghost battle group. It was because they were a new species in the land of Bakey. Just like the Ice Ghost clan, they were born in this world. Their only enemy was the Bakey Divine clan and the Ice Snow clan, who had abandoned them and imprisoned them in the frozen world for countless years. After being sealed in ice for so long, his consciousness had yet to completely awaken. He pondered for a long time, then walked toward the players closest to him. Seeing Icy Cold walking over, the players wailed in the live chat channel, F***CK, are we going to fight now? Don't. It's over. I just looked at the panels of the subordinates behind him. They're all ghostly emperors and ghostly kings. How are we going to fight them? Even if we throw our lives away, it won't be enough. I can see the dark future of Bakey. I want to take my own life to atone for my sins. Is the new expansion pack, The Great Escape, about to be released? Woo woo. Freezing ice from the Ice Ghost clan of Bakey. As he walked in front of the players, Frozen raised his sword and patted his left chest lightly, revealing his identity to the players. Freezing Ice's action stunned the players. Obviously, it was the first time they met someone with such strength who spoke in such a friendly manner. Previously, the opponents that the players had encountered, from the very first one to the Sea King to the 9 luminaries, were all extremely rude and rude. They acted as if they were stronger than you, so you were AF** King grandson. Therefore, the player's first impression of freezing ice was that of a great demon was also influenced by this. After all, the previous god-level master, the demonic god, was simply a world-destroying demon king. Not only did he destroy the burial ground of Bakey the moment he was born, but he also beat Tao Wu to death while fishing. He looked exactly like a fierce god. However, they had never met someone like Freezing Ice, who had the strength of a godly state but had such a friendly attitude. Therefore, the players could not help but be stunned. In fact, what the players did not know was that a person's position determined his way of thinking. All the forces that the players had encountered before were extremely cruel and mercenary. It was precisely because they lived in the law of the jungle that they had to do evil in order to survive and plunder everything that was beneficial to them as much as possible. However, Freezing Ice was different. He stood at a higher position. He used to be a member of the Heaven-Defying Alliance. He had been fighting for the divine clan of Bakey and the underworld all his life. Therefore, the creatures of the underworld were of the same origin in Freezing Ice's eyes. He also mistakenly thought that the players were a new race born in Bakey. Most importantly, they had no grudges with the players, nor did they have any conflicts of interest. Therefore, Freezing Ice had no hostility towards the players. However, the players had not come into contact with Freezing Ice's level. They thought that the powerhouses of this world were all like the demonic god, so they felt that Freezing Ice's attitude was really strange. Can you tell me what time is it in the 6 Realms calendar? Looking at the dumbfounded players in front of him, Freezing Ice's eyes glowed blue as he asked again. 6 Realms calendar? What's that? The player in front of Freezing Ice asked in a low voice. What's the current calendar of this world? Freezing Ice frowned slightly. Calendar that 2321. I'm not sure if it's right. The player continued to answer in a low voice in order not to offend Freezing Ice. Obviously, this answer also confused Freezing Ice. The unified calendar of the entire underworld was calculated according to the operation of the 6 realms of reincarnation. Each revolution counted as a day, which was similar to the alternation of the sun and the moon in the human world. Therefore, when he heard that it was 2321, Freezing Ice could not compare it with the reincarnation calendar that he was familiar with. Since his consciousness was not fully awakened, Freezing Ice pondered for a while before he asked again, "Where is the ruling deity of the land of Bakey now?" Ruling deity? There is no deity in Bakey. The player said in shock. There is no deity. Hearing this, Freezing Ice's body trembled. His sharp eyes stared the player and asked again, "Where is the divine clan of Bakey?" The divine clan of Bakey? There is no such race. The player was about to cry. He felt that he could not understand what Freezing Ice was asking. Hearing this answer, Freezing Ice was in disbelief. The divine clan of Bakey was the creator of this region and also the ruler of Bakey. Now that he heard that the divine clan of Bakey no longer existed, the first guess that came to his mind was that the heaven-defying alliance had been destroyed. If that was not the case, why would the divine clan of Bakey disappear? Freezing Ice knew very well how powerful the divine clan of Bakey was. In the underworld, there might be many deities, but there were very few forces that could be called a divine clan. The divine clan of Bakey was one of the best among them, and it was also one of the most powerful forces in the underworld. The divine clan of Bakey was at its peak when the heaven-defying alliance was established. Under the leadership of Bailey, the divine clan of Bakey had recruited many talented experts, and many deities had joined them. These people were fed up with the law of the jungle in the underworld and were willing to follow their leader, Bailey, to fight against the heaven realm and take back everything that had been lost. At that time, the divine clan of Bakey was already one of the most powerful forces in the underworld. Its scale was unprecedentedly large, and it had fought against the heaven realm several times, killing many deities from the heaven realm. Therefore, when he heard that the divine clan of Bakey had disappeared, the first thing that came to Freezing Ice's mind was that the divine clan of Bakey had been destroyed. The anger that emerged in his heart was like a bucket of cold water. Freezing Ice could not believe that all of this was true. He had wanted to question Bailey personally why she had sealed them in the boundless coldness. He also wanted to make the divine clan of Bakey pay the price for their betrayal. However, at this moment, all of this no longer existed, so how could he carry it out? The blue light in Freezing Ice's eyes flickered, and his heart was full of confusion. He thought that he had found a target for the Ice School clan to fight again, but now it seemed like a joke. They did not belong to this era, and the heaven-defying alliance that remembered their glory might have already disappeared with the wind. Do you need any help?" The fat boy in front of him continued to ask in a low voice. At this time, a group of players in the live chat channel were teaching him how to speak. In short, he should never start a fight, or the mansion of the dead would be blown up again. If he said the wrong thing, he would smash his head. The fat boy wanted to cry, but had no tears. Freezing Ice was already very scary in his eyes, and now he was being threatened by the players in the live chat channel. The price of saying the wrong thing was to become a sinner. How could he bear it? The fat boy's answer made Freezing Ice very confused at this time. He did not know where he should go, and he did not even know where the Ice School clan's future was, because there was no home anymore. Who is in charge of Bakey now? After a moment of silence, Freezing Ice could not help but ask. "Weak we." The fat boy who wanted to say "I" reflexively changed it to "we" after seeing Freezing Ice's sharp gaze. This was also a habit of the players. After all, every player said that they were the only heir of Bakey, and they often joked that others were fake and that they were the legitimate heir. Hearing this, the blue light in Freezing Ice's eyes faded. He turned to look at his clan, which was a broken body that had been baptized by war and ravaged by time. Because of their faith, they raised their weapons and fought countless bloody battles. Not only did it not extinguish the passion in their hearts, but it also made them braver. However, at this moment, this familiar yet strange world seemed to have nothing that they wanted anymore. The Bakey divine clan was destroyed, and no one could give him an answer to the doubts in his heart. The heaven-defying alliance was destroyed, and they were even less qualified to represent the underworld to fight against the heaven realm. At this time, Freezing Ice felt that he and his clan had been eliminated by the new era, and they seemed out of place. It seemed that continuing to sleep was the best ending for them. Thinking of this, Icy Cold looked confused. He turned his head and looked at the crack, the place where they had been imprisoned for countless years. At this moment, all the Ice School clan members were also silently looking at their clan leader, waiting for him to guide them in the next direction. However, at this moment, they also saw the loneliness and confusion in the clan leader's eyes. However, They did not speak and just waited quietly. No matter what choice he made, they would continue to follow him. Silence again. At this moment, when he inherited the position of clan leader of the Ice School clan, the words that the master that he once respected so much said to him appeared in his mind. Someone has to stand up. This person may not be the founder of the new era of the underworld, but he will definitely be the one to lead the old era to the end. With a sweet smile, she decided the future direction of the Bakey Divine clan and even established the Heaven-Defying Alliance. According to her, the Heaven-Defying Alliance was the guide to the end of the old era in the underworld, not the creator of the new era. Sacrifice was inevitable, and so was destruction. It was just to open up a new path for the new era. It was also to awaken the last bit of courage of these underworld gods who were in the old era and were unwilling to fight. At this moment, Freezing Ice suddenly understood that he and his clan actually belonged to the old era, not the new era of the underworld. Roar! Suddenly, Freezing Ice raised the frost sword in his hand and pointed it at the sky. The sharp sword energy soared into the sky, piercing the dark clouds. Even without the guidance of the Bakey Divine clan, even without the name of the Heaven-Defying Alliance, the Ice School clan could still fight for themselves and for the underworld. Since all traces of the old era had been erased, then let's burn the last drop of blood and die together with the old era that once belonged to us. Seeing Freezing Ice's roar, the players' faces turned pale, thinking that Freezing Ice was finally going to make a move. However, at this moment, Freezing Ice looked at the players. "Leave here." "What?" the fat boy asked dumbfoundedly. "Leave here. You will die if you stay here." Many of the players, obviously, did not understand what he meant. At this moment, 4 blood seals appeared behind Freezing Ice, and a dense blood mist began to spread between heaven and earth. A sobbing and complaining voice echoed between heaven and earth. That was the cry of the Heaven Realm gods, who were trapped in Freezing Ice's body. Under Freezing Ice's control, the blood essence that originally belonged to the Heaven Realm gods turned into the crimson wing seal of the Heaven-Defying Alliance, piercing through the sky, shattering the clouds, and hanging in the sky. It was a blatant declaration of war. At this moment, a large number of forces in the underworld were alarmed. Countless gods were shocked. Their gazes passed through the layers of space obstacles and focused on the seal formed by the blood essence of the Heaven Realm gods, the Heaven-Defying Alliance. These gods could not help but cry out. The seal that disappeared for a long time and was forgotten by many forces reappeared. At this moment, they all knew that the turmoil of the underworld was coming. Those guys whose hands were stained with the blood of the Heaven Realm gods had returned. Freezing Ice's decision at this moment even made Lu Wu feel incredulous. Seeing Freezing Ice's action, a smile appeared on the originally dull faces of the clansmen. They knew that the clan leader had made a decision. At this moment, no one felt afraid. Instead, they roared toward the sky, excitedly. Streams of blood essence emerged from their backs and soared into the sky, merging into the seal of the Heaven-Defying Alliance in the sky. They were the remnants of the old era and did not belong to this new era. This war was only to keep up with the old era that had passed away until the last drop of blood was shed. Needless to say, all the clansmen understood what the clan leader Freezing Ice's decision was. All they could do was to follow behind him with all their might. The soldiers of the Ice School clan gathered and increased their fighting spirit. The entire land of Bakey was shaking. The players were sent out of the Arctic abyss with a wave of Freezing Ice's hand. Freezing Ice looked up at the sky, exuding a stubborn and arrogant aura. He waited quietly. The bloody seal of the Heaven-Defying Alliance in the sky was getting bigger and bigger, covering the sky and the sun. At this moment, not only the forces in the underworld, but the gods in the Heaven Realm were also alarmed. The forces in the Heaven Realm were unprecedentedly nervous. A large number of supervising gods from the heavenly strategy mirror broke through the barrier of the 3 realms and descended. There were more and more figures in the sky. It was a familiar formation and a familiar aura. The only thing missing was the red that they were familiar with. At this moment, Freezing Ice's aura changed drastically. At this moment, he was the clan leader of the Ice School battle team that made the gods tremble in fear. He pointed the frost sword in his hand to the sky. A ferocious smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His killing intent soared into the sky, forming a scarlet mist in the sky. Roar! All the Ice School clan members roared at the sky. They were like wild beasts declaring war to the gods of the heaven realm. At this moment, Freezing Ice's figure flashed and pierced into the sky like a sharp sword. Boom! The soldiers of the Ice School clan struck the ground at the same time. The entire iceberg in the Arctic abyss collapsed under the power of the Ice School clan soldiers. Their figures followed closely behind Freezing Ice and shot into the sky. Ice School! The newly promoted gods might be unfamiliar with these people, but the supervising immortal who was leading the team recognized the origin of this force at a glance. A look of disbelief appeared on his face. This was a force of the heaven-defying alliance that had been removed from the list. But now it appeared again. Terror spread in his heart. They were only the heavenly policy mirror that was responsible for monitoring the situation in the underworld. They were not the real fighting force of the heaven realm. Usually he could kill the remnants under the banner of the heaven-defying alliance. But when faced with the real fighting force of the heaven-defying alliance, he felt great pressure. Quick, defend! They are not ordinary members of the heaven-defying alliance. After coming back to his senses, the supervising immortal shouted at the gods around him. Hearing the immortal's roar, all the gods of the heaven realm hurriedly used themselves as energy nodes to set up a formation. In the blink of an eye, a golden formation that covered the sky was formed. Ha ha ha! Seeing this scene, Freezing Ice could not help but laugh wildly. Then he slammed his head into the golden formation. Roar! The clansmen that followed behind him followed one after another. They slammed into the golden formation like raindrops, bombarding it crazily. At this moment, the supervising immortal's face was still full of terror. But soon he realized one thing. With the combat power of the Ice Ghost Troop, their defense formation should have been destroyed instantly. But after so long, they had not broken through the defense formation. Could it be that they had become weaker? Realizing this, the fear on the supervising immortal's face gradually faded. But soon he did not think so. Chains emerged from the bodies of the Ice Ghost Troop and pierced the golden formation. Like spiritual snakes, they slithered in the formation and passed through the bodies of the gods on their side. Puff! Except for the supervising immortal who was above the formation, all the gods of the heaven realm present vomited blood at the same time. The formation collapsed instantly. Meanwhile, on the side of the Ice Ghost Troop, their aura was rising steadily as the black chains appeared. Their bodies were gradually covered by the ice blue energy that emerged from their bodies. Their bodies were emitting a bright ice blue light. She did not abandon us. Seeing the chains that had sealed his divine power come out of his body and help them break through the defense formation of the gods, Freezing Ice's body trembled. Feeling the divine power gradually recovering in his body, Freezing Ice knew that the Northly God did not abandon them. This was the power of the heaven sealing law that belonged to her. There was no mistaking it. His divine power was rising steadily. The power of God slaying that once belonged to him had returned. Roar! The ice frost sword suddenly slashed forward. A blue half-moon trajectory soared into the sky. All the gods of the heaven realm who were hit along the way were frozen. Wherever the tribe kings, sword pointed, nothing existed. The soldiers of the Ice Ghost Troop continued to tear the bodies of the gods along this trajectory. A large number of gods of the heaven realm died at this moment. Stop! The supervising immortal couldn't help but roar. The 7-star jade in his hand turned into a giant shield and pressed against Freezing Ice. Seeing this, Freezing Ice's body flashed and faced the giant shield head-on. The ice frost sword in his hand was ignited with ice-blue flames. Crack! With one thrust, the giant shield suddenly shattered. Freezing Ice's speed did not decrease. He shot toward the supervising immortal. The combat power of Immortal Lord was nothing in Freezing Ice's eyes, because every mark of divine blood on his back belonged to a heaven realm immortal. If it was not an Immortal Lord, in Freezing Ice's eyes, it was not even worthy to be his trophy. Looking at Freezing Ice, who was approaching, the supervising immortal was terrified. At this moment he was afraid, facing the infamous Ice Ghost battle group. He did not dare to make an enemy out of it. His figure suddenly shot up into the sky, pouncing towards a crack that led to the heaven realm that was hanging on the horizon. Die! The ice-blue ice frost sword pierced through the sky and stabbed toward the supervising immortal, with Freezing Ice's hatred for the gods of the heaven realm. When the blue sword spirit touched the supervising immortal, his body trembled, and he could not help but spit out a mouthful of golden blood. Looking at the space crack that was getting closer and closer, he did not stop. He gritted his teeth and sped up again. When he got close to the space crack, his body disappeared into it. Freezing Ice's eyes were covered with blue light. Just as he was about to chase after the immortal, the heaven-sealing lock appeared in his body again, and suddenly pierced into the crack. The power that belonged to the North Lee deity broke through layers of space barriers and bound the supervising immortal who was flying toward the heaven realm, forcefully pulling him back to the underworld. Ha ha ha! Looking at the supervising immortal who appeared again, Freezing Ice laughed wildly and waved the ice frost sword in his hand without hesitation. The broken long sword was mixed with ice-blue flames. It suddenly slashed across the supervising immortal's neck with a touch of gold. The body of the supervising immortal began to condense into ice crystals, covering his whole body bit by bit. At the last moment before his consciousness was obliterated, the supervising immortal seemed to hear Freezing Ice's wanton laughter. Then the endless darkness in front of him eroded him and devoured him at the moment when Freezing Ice killed the supervising immortal. His clansmen behind him also ended their battle. Their bodies were bathed in the blood of the gods. The long-awaited god-killing battle, which had been silent for a long time, made their blood boil again. They roared at the sky and provoked the crack that led to the heaven realm. The gods of the underworld, who were watching this from the unseen world, were all horrified at this moment. Hundreds of gods and one immortal lord had all fallen in a single exchange of blows. The Ice Ghost Troop, a powerful clan from the heaven-defying alliance that was almost forgotten, announced to all the gods of the underworld in such an arrogant way. They had woken up, and their original intention to kill the gods had never changed.